in the back corner when I'm not presenting.
Listening in.
And listen in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bass University Live here on Tuesday night.
Take a quick break. Watch John Cruz's on the Tokyo rig.
Be a part of the show. Get some chances to win some awesome prizes.
It's Bass You Go. You know, we didn't have that back then.
Dude, it can just...
That text thread gives me so much energy. I mean, like I'm dialed.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. I know we are. We have a brand new Bash U for you tonight, and guess what? It's a good one. I mean, a really good one. We got a very special guest joining us here in studio. Such a treat. The one and only Oliver Nye with us tonight.
Woo!
Yes. Yes. And it's without saying that we're gonna talk some shop tonight, Oliver. We're gonna go deep on some stuff. I got to share the boat with you today, and I thought of about 30 things we could talk about. But we're going to limit it tonight because we got about a 2-hour show. We're going to be talking about big baits, and you are one of the masters at big bait fishing. So stoked to have you here. So excited. Thank you for joining us. Want to intro the rest of the room. Joining us via Zoom, we've got a motley crew, a hell of a motley crew here tonight on Bash University. Of course, our presidente, the one and only dean of the program, Pete Gluszek. How you doing tonight, Pete? Nice to see you.
I'm doing good. It's good to see you guys. Good to see Mike. Good to meet you, Oliver. And man, I'm anxious to hear about your fishing day today. Did you run into any 15 to 17 pounders out on the river?
No, little short, maybe a little short of 15 to 17 pounds.
Just shy of that.
Just shy of that. We're going to talk about a little bit of that later, Pete. We'll get into it. Also joining us tonight, of course, you know him because he wins every damn tournament he fishes, especially from the back of the boat. The one and only JK, Justin Kimmel, joins us tonight. How you doing, Justin?
Oh man, I'm great. You know I'm pumped about this show.
Yeah.
I may resort to finesse tactics in my co-angler events, but I like to throw a big bait every now and then. And as you can imagine, I probably have too many questions for Mr. Nye.
The whole show is going to be Justin. It'll just be you and Justin the entire show. We can all sit back and crack some beers and not worry. You know what I'm saying? Also joining us via the Zoom machine, we've got handling IMs and other things, little trinkets and whatnot. We have the one and only Rich, a.k.a. Rizzo, a.k.a. Rizz, joining us tonight. Rizz, how you doing?
Doing great, Mike. I'm excited for this show. One of the best parts about having this job is that not only do I get to handle the things on the show that I do, but I also get to learn from the people that we're so lucky to have on. And having a big bait guy like Oliver, I don't have much experience in this avenue, so I'm really excited to hear about the ins and outs of the big bait fishing.
Yes, me too. It's going to be a good one.
Rizz be learning.
Rizz be learning. And we've got in studio, we've got pushing buttons, making the show possible, making plays.
That's what I do.
We've got the one and only Brian the Carpenter, tonight producing.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm
Okay.
happy to be here. I'm
Yeah.
here. We're
Yeah.
here.
All right. And we do.
Before we get too carried away, I want to send a shout out to Andre Albornoz or something like that. He's a Bass U subscriber and a BTC super fan. Met him up at Susquehanna Fishing Tackle over the weekend. And matter of fact, don't let me forget, I got a bottle of booze in the truck for you from him.
We like booze.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. Yes, we do.
Booze are good. This is going to be a great show. Let me remind everybody, your input is critical. I want to hear from you tonight. If you've got questions or comments, please hit up Rizz on the IM. And get your pencils, get your pens out, get your learning caps ready. This is going to be a great show. I'd like to pass it over to Rizz and Pete. We've got a couple things happening here. We've got a couple little promotions going on here at BU that are very exciting. What do we got happening, fellas?
Go ahead, Rizz, take it.
Yeah, so
Hot potato.
no problem. As always, we
It's
have
your segment. I didn't want to step on your segment, man.
no problem. So as always, guys, we're giving a few things away during the show. Tonight's big prize for a Ken Duke trivia question later in the show is a TH Marine mini hydrowave.
Ooh.
All right, so that's headed out the door. Anybody who asks a question on the show tonight that gets through to the board and we use it on the show, we're hooking you up with a TH Marine gift card, $25. TH Marine, and also during the show we're going to be giving out two $25 Gills gift cards. You can see we're all rocking our Gills gear. It's comfortable stuff, so we're sending those out as well. If you're over there on Facebook and you insist on not heading over to Bash U TV, we're still going to hook you up. Like and share tonight's feed, and you'll be entered in for a chance to win a $75 prize pack of Flambeau, Rapala, and TH Marine products. So like and share tonight's feed, and you'll get a chance to win that.
Very nice. Very nice. That's a nice.
Yeah, if you are loafing over there on Facebook, never been a better time. It's 60 days free over at Bash University right now. So it's two months free. Come on over and check it out. Take your New Year's resolution, learn to catch more and bigger bass. Never been a better time coming over and joining us. 60 days.
Yeah, and there's actually two grand prize tonight. The other one is a day on the water with Oliver that we just made up right now on the spot. Hey, all right, maybe not, but you know. If you can find us tomorrow,
you can find us on the water tomorrow
find us.
in a sneak hole in South Jersey. You get
That prize is responsible by BTC.
that's right.
On a real note, though, I think the team would be down to throw some Big Bass Stream swag if anybody's
Yeah,
interested in
all right.
there
that.
you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Do like a hoodie and a
Awesome.
hat combo from Big Bass
Rad.
Streams.
We could do that.
Yeah, and
All
maybe a fancy Defiant swim bait from those guys.
Ooh.
Can I win?
Amen.
However you guys want to divvy that up.
All right, I got it.
like it.
I'll work it in.
I like it. Brian, this is going to be a great show. I'm stoked. I want to get the show started, but I guess we have to do a commercial break or something.
This is your favorite part,
Yeah,
Mike.
it's all this build up, and then we've got to like tear it down for a commercial.
That's
but
right.
you want to
And-
do that real
Yeah,
quick?
let me tear this.
Sweet, I need a break.
Yeah,
Let me tear this down. And
that was a tough 5 minutes of intro.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Why do you love catching fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out doing a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
We're different. Some would say obsessed. There's no place on earth we'd rather be than right here, right now. Performance-driven gear, so you can fish longer, harder. Gills Performance Fishing.
One thing that's happened that's probably advanced our electronics more so this year than anything that has in a while, C-Clear Power wiring harness. These units are designed to do a certain thing. If you're not getting enough power, enough wattage, enough voltage, they're not going to perform the way they're supposed to perform. C-Clear Power wiring harness fixes that problem. One of the great things about the C-Clear Power harness is it doesn't matter what brand of unit you have, it doesn't matter what kind of boat you got. The thing that you want from the C-Clear harness is power. C-Clear Power puts enough voltage to your units to make them maintain the performance that they're supposed to maintain. So if you're not seeing everything like you think you should see it, C-Clear Power will show it to you.
And action.
All right, hey everybody. Thanks for hanging on for that unwanted break. Welcome back to a brand new BU Live here on Tuesday night. We've got the one and only Oliver Nye with us tonight. So excited to have him in the studio. And we're talking big baits. We're talking big baits. I guess I want to start right off the giddy. And I want to hear from you. What would you define big baits as? Because I hear that term thrown around a lot, right? I hear guys say, "Oh, it's a big bait bite." You know, I'm only a big bait guy, or this is the kind of place where you throw big baits. Let's define it first, because I think there's people watching at home that want to just assume it's only a Huddleston or a giant swim bait. But what, in your mind, what is a big bait?
Man, that's kind of a tough one to answer, because it always comes down to perspective and regional application especially.
Yeah.
But to me, a big bait is something like over a 7-8 inch threshold, really, because then you start really attracting attention from a whole different class of fish than you would with a 6-inch version of that same bait.
Yeah.
You're still dealing with 2 and 3 pound fish,
right?
Which would have been beautiful today.
Yes.
But like when you escalate into that bigger class, it truly is a different game at that point.
Right. So we're talking big bait. We're talking a lure over 6 inches, 7 inches plus, a swim bait, a top water, right? Could be different categories.
Right. The swim bait is kind of used interchangeably with big bait.
Yeah.
But a swim bait is typically a soft body bait with a some kind of swimming mechanism on the back of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like boot tail.
Yeah.
But a big bait can encompass all kinds of big things.
Yeah.
I mean, even a giant crankbait.
Giant crankbait could be a big bait.
Right. Absolutely.
I think you hit something on the head, and this is I know a lot of people watching right now and listening saying, how's this show going to help me? And you hit something that's real important. When you get into this big bait class, you are targeting a different caliber of fish. I've watched you for a lot of years, catch these fish that for a lot of us we'd never dream about catching. Like, I mean, dude, fish over 10, but when you start to talk 13, 14, 17.
Yeah.
Is that the magic of big baits?
Thanks. Appreciate that, Brian. Good tip.
Brian's doing notes over here.
Yeah. Run that by me one more time.
Yeah. So, there's guys watching tonight. They're saying, all right, this is a show on big baits. I get it. But, how is this going to help me in my fishing? And I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. For guys that are at home, they're watching, they're saying, man, why should I throw these things? They're giant. They're ridiculous. I have one in my box, or I've seen them. I want to get them, but why should I throw them? These are the same guys that can't get a big bite, can't catch a fish over, the biggest fish in their lake, wherever they're at. Are big baits one of the ways to catch that caliber fish?
Absolutely. For me, it's been the only way.
Right.
Of all my largemouth over 10 pounds, every single one of them's come on a big bait.
Right.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Versus I don't even know how many other fish I've caught on every other traditional technique.
Right.
And nice fish, 7 pounders, 8 pounders, 9 pounders, can't break the double-digit threshold without a big bait in my hands.
Yeah. And that's what I think the key is. It's like, we're not saying, Brian Carpenter, we're not saying you can't catch a big one on a regular technique. But when you're trying to hone in on the biggest fish that swim in that fishery, this is one of the ways you can catch them.
Absolutely. You can hyper-focus and up your odds.
Yeah.
Your odds of catching fish go down dramatically.
Yes.
But your odds of catching the right one go up dramatically at the same time.
Yeah. Now, I want to throw it to Pete real quick. And Pete, just because of your sheer age, you fish longer than all of us by default. Yes, you fish longer than all of us.
It's not debatable.
You've been around the scene. You've heard of big baits your whole career. But I know, I'm going to rat you out a little bit. Big baits don't play a big part in your fishing. Why is that?
Well, it's a good question because, I do use big baits, but they're nowhere near the caliber of the stuff that Oliver's talking about.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I upsized the big jigs, and it was big, you know, they're bigger size than, you know, your average size stuff. And that's been successful. But here's the deal. When guys came from, remember this, Mike, when the West Coasters invaded the Bassmasters top 100s and, and 150s?
Invaded.
You know, we had a lot of West Coast guys come in, and the big bait mentality was just in their blood, and it scared the death out of me, because this is like a whole category that, you know, man, I didn't have in my arsenal. I didn't even own them. You know, guys talking about $100 for a bait and crazy stuff like that. And, you know, it kind of, you know, I tried it, I learned about it, and enough. But what we found was a lot of those guys would fail at it on the Central and East Coast fisheries in tournament competitions. Or not, failed's not the right word. They just weren't having that tremendous success that we all thought that they were going to come out here and crush it.
Yeah.
So I throw this to Oliver. You've fished all over the country. I know big baits work everywhere, but it's something to me. This is just my observation. I haven't fished out West Coast but a few times, and it seems like the bait that the bass are feeding on out there is bigger, and maybe the lakes just generally have larger fish, more fish over double digits than exist here in the central and eastern part of the states. But is that the reason why? I mean, I know big baits work here, but man, they definitely work better, seeming to me in my observation, out on the West Coast.
Well, you're partially correct in that I do believe there are more bigger fish overall in places like California, places like Texas,
Florida.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's definitely playing a factor in it. But also keep in mind, the first time I came to Jersey, I fished with my good buddy Justin Pirelli, who's a local hammer up here, and he had never thrown a big bait just because it's outside of that realm of comfort for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't California, this isn't Texas,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So I show up, and I think we did an event. It was either SFT or Tackle Direct, and we actually snuck in a half day of fishing on one of his small Jersey bodies of water before I had to fly back to the West Coast, and I caught 3 fish on 10-inch baits.
Yeah.
On one of his home lakes, and his mind just
blew it up.
So he was able to take that proof of concept, and I got to watch this hammer of a traditional fisherman apply many of the same fundamental principles, but on a larger scale.
Yeah.
On bodies of water he already kind of knew, but was relearning all over again, because now he's drawing out fish that he never knew was in some of these northeastern lakes.
Yep.
And dude, I was watching him catching 4, 5, 6 pound smallmouth on 8-inch soft baits. His brother Aaron was laughing at him profusely the first time he was throwing a big megabass eye slide. I'm pretty sure it was on the Hudson River, and it's making this giant, explosion when it hits the water. It's like, dude, you're not gonna catch crap on it. Like, he was laughing at him hysterically, like, what are you doing? And I think it was within like 5 or 10 minutes, he's like, net. And his brother's like, yeah, whatever, you're effing with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, seriously, get the net. And he nets an 8-pounder.
Wow.
So don't let those boxes we all have been guilty of, like, building around ourselves mentally, really stop you from exploring what your own backyard fisheries have to offer. Because everywhere I've traveled throughout this country, and now like internationally even, like, I'm in someone's backyard.
Right.
And to me, your grass is greener than my grass, because I wouldn't tow my boat all the way out here if I didn't think that.
Yeah.
Because the West Coast fisheries, honestly, especially now, they're in a tough cycle. The pressure is definitely there as the swim bait culture and popularity keeps trending up. It's come in a few waves now. Like one of the first waves I saw, which is really cool for me to be here and hang out with Mike, was he actually came to the West Coast on one of my home lakes, and he was waxing them on a big bait.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is dope. We got a national pro out here in our backyard, like, doing like our thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that I get to go travel to places like here.
Yeah.
And explore and experiment and try applying what I've learned, mainly at home, but have taken on the road. I spent 2 years in Texas, showing these guys like, hey, your fish are still here and they're big and they love eating big things and there isn't a single rainbow trout here to affect this fishery like you guys think it does.
Right.
Like big fish eat big prey items.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a crappie, a gizzard shad, each other.
Yeah.
Big fish eat big baits.
They do.
It's a real thing.
And that's, Pete, I think that's a big point. You know, I think a lot of us, you, me, a lot of people in the parts of the country where this isn't totally accepted, right? We're intimidated. We're intimidated by the baits themselves. Dude, they're big. They're giant. I saw the box you brought in here. Me and Brian walked up the stairs and we looked at it. We're like, holy shit! What are those things in there? They're bigger than any of the keepers we caught in the Delaware today. You know, I mean, there's an intimidation factor, right? There's an intimidation factor with price for sure, which is different for a lot of guys. I think that's changing a little bit as prices come down, but there's an intimidation factor. But if you get through that and focus on what you just said, which I think is key, dude, if the fishery has forage that is 7, 8, 9, 10 inches, then a big bait will work. You know, even here, Pete, we've got gizzard shad, we've got crappie, we've got yellow perch,
white bass. They love eating.
We've got
those
white
things.
bass. We've got golden shiners that surely get 7, 8 inches long. So, you know, I think that's key. I think if you're watching and listening right now, and if you've had a phobia about big baits, let your guard down. Open up your mind. Listen to what Oliver's saying. These things can work.
Don't listen to Pete.
Don't listen to Pete.
Don't listen to Pete.
You don't have to throw a black Senko the whole year, okay?
Don't let him
Hey
ruin your
man,
dreams.
a younger version of me can relate to Pete though.
Were you intimidated at one point?
Absolutely. I mean, the entire time I was inspired, right?
Yeah.
And I got to grow up in this culture of trophy bass fishing.
Yeah.
But back then, most of it was live bait stuff.
Yeah.
Live crayfish, live water dogs are still in play.
Yeah.
And then there was a handful of guys doing it with a big fake fish.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when I was experimenting as a young angler, like, dude, the looks I got from people, the comments, it wasn't a common thing back then. And up until recently, it still isn't.
Yeah.
To catch one on a big bait is very hard, especially in California.
Yeah.
Most people just want to go out there and have fun and catch a fish.
Right.
So what you're going to see on the West Coast mostly is guys finesse fishing.
Right. A lot of finesse.
A lot of finesse.
Yeah.
So don't think that like California is some magical bass fishing factory where you can just show up and buy the hot bait, throw it enough times, and then catch a fish of a lifetime.
Right.
It's not like that even there.
Right.
Like you have to earn those fish.
Yeah. What if people are watching right now and they're saying, "All right, I get it. I have to get over my intimidation." When you were young, what did you use to help you get over that hump? Going from just being like, "Man, do these things work?" to now saying, "Man, I got confidence in this thing. This thing's going to catch big ones."
Right.
Was there a moment? Was there a series of things that happened? How did you get over that?
You know, to be honest, for the first time ever, I think I'm kind of realizing that I made a lot of the same mistakes early that I see a lot of people making now, and that's trying to jump the gun too early.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough fishing experience under my belt.
Right.
I didn't spend enough time like dribbling the basketball and working on layups and free throws.
Yeah.
Like I was just trying to take game-winning, shots from half court.
Yeah.
And I was missing so much of that game.
Yeah.
That ultimately ended up letting me become successful with a big bait.
Yeah.
Because your level of engagement is going to drop dramatically, so your learning opportunities are fewer and far between.
Yeah.
So I was just going through long dry spells of not catching crap, not really learning anything.
Yeah.
So really focus on fundamental styles of fishing, because for every fundamental style of bait, I guarantee you, especially now, there's a big bait alternative.
Right.
And it's a lot of the same principles and execution, just scaled up.
Right. Yeah.
So even start with the smaller version of a big bait that you want to learn how to fish.
Yeah.
So if it's a big soft-bodied swim bait, spend time with like a small swim, 4-inch swim bait. A lot of the same mechanics are the same.
Yeah.
Where you fish it, how you set the hook, how you fight the fish, all that translates up.
Right.
And then you can start with like a 6-inch swim bait.
Yeah.
Catch a bunch of fish on that.
Yeah.
Step up to the next size.
Yeah.
Start catching less fish, but maximize on your your fewer opportunities, but on a hopefully better class of fish, and just keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to find yourself throwing 10, 12, 13, 14-inch baits and hopefully catching fish on them.
Yeah, catching giants. Let me remind everybody, if you're watching, if you've got questions and comments for what you're hearing, please hit us up. We've got Rizzo, Brian the Carpenter over there taking our IMs and questions tonight.
You want to hit some?
Yeah, we'll hit a couple questions real quick before we do that. I do want to throw Justin under the bus here and say that the other thing I want to mention about big baits before we get into some of these questions is, dude, they're not just for guys that are in the front of their own $50,000 bass boat. There are big baits are as effective for guys in kayaks.
Oh, yeah.
Canoes, bank fishing, co-anglers. Justin, for crying out loud, the last big event that you fished was won by a co-angler. I think we had him on BU. If I'm mistaken.
Green.
Fishing
Matt Green.
Yep, fishing a big bait exclusively. Talk about that, Justin. Big bait exclusively and won the whole thing.
Yeah, so Matt got to the end of his second day, and he hadn't caught much on day one, and I think he had 0 in the box on day 2. And he said, well, I think he had thrown it around a little bit, but last 2 hours of the last day, I'm out of it. I'm going to go hero or zero. He pulls out S-Waver. The bigger, like the 160-something size. It wasn't the little 5-inch one. It was a bigger one. Yeah, 168. And he got like 10 or 12 follows and caught 3 that were, mega smallmouth. I think he had like 10 pounds or something for the 3. And, of course, in that tournament where bites were just so hard to come by, he vaults up to, I guess he was a spot behind or ahead of me. I think he was in 3rd. After day 1. Yeah, he was in 3rd after day 1. Or day 2, rather, going in the final day. And, dude, he did it again. He had like 40 encounters with giant smallmouth and only caught 3 because of the smallmouth, I guess, just not being able to get it. Was switching back and forth between colors, dialed into like this perch pattern, and caught 3 for another 10 pounds and kicked our tails.
Wow. Just as effective in the back of the boat.
Absolutely. I threw it on day 3. I had caught a whiff that they would eat it, and he kicked my tail and everybody else.
Nice. Rizz, let's put some questions through. What do we got coming in?
Sounds good. The first question that we'll go to is from Bass Tracker Dave, and Bass Tracker Dave wants to know, what is the best kind of big bait to start with for someone that's new, just getting into it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who's that, Bass Tracker Dave?
Bass Tracker Dave.
Wow, Bass Tracker Dave. Good question. Gift card. Wow, that's a real good one.
One that you're comfortable losing. Way too many guys spending money on baits that they will not put where they need to put.
Right.
They're deathly scared of losing, breaking their baits.
Yeah.
And they never utilize those things as the tools that they should be using.
Right. And that's funny that you say that, because I've seen that with other lures. I see that with guys throwing freaking Mega Bass 110s, right? Yeah. They only paid $20 for that thing, but they're scared to throw it near stuff.
Scared.
Same thing with swim baits, right?
Totally.
You got to be willing to throw it where they live.
Got to.
Yeah. And the good thing, a Digger Dave, is that the prices of some of these things are coming down. Like
sure.
I remember back way back when, dude, you paid $100 for everything, it seemed like. Yeah. But now it's coming down, right?
Yeah. For guys that are really looking to get their feet wet, look at the Mega Bass Mag Draft series of baits.
Mag Draft, yeah.
Okay, there's a 6-inch version. That's a great starter bait for exactly what I was talking about. It's kind of like the training bait.
Yeah.
You literally fish that 6-inch bait the exact same way you would fish the 8-inch version and the 10-inch version.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of bites on that bait.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't fish it for a few years because I was catching too many 2 to 5 pound fish.
Right.
Because my focus was on fish that were 2 to 3 times bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to mess with those fish.
Yeah.
So
until you came to Jersey. Now you kill for it.
Now you want to mess with them. Yeah.
Oh man, I'd mess with them all day long. So you start with that 6-inch size. It's super easy to fish. It's got a nice body wobble to it. It's really a 1-speed bait. But once you get it dialed in and see that bait swimming, you can get dialed into the feel of that bait. So when you're fishing a fishery like the Delaware where you got no visibility, you can visualize what that bait's doing and swimming like when it's out of view. And then you're going to get comfortable and like, okay, it's swimming right. I can feel it pulsing. Boom! Oh, there's a bite.
Yeah.
Set the hook.
Yeah.
And
do it again.
Boom! There's a bite.
I liked it.
Oliver, let me ask you a question, because you said don't be afraid to throw them. And, we've got them. I know all these guys busting my chops, but I've got piles of big baits and throw them.
Look brand new.
But what's your key when you've got $100 bait stuck on the bottom? Like,
I've got two lure retrievers.
What's the best lure retriever? What's the key to getting them back?
I got a 15-foot extendable one. You can find on Amazon for probably like $37, I think. And then I keep one on a 50, 60-foot rope, and it's like a 1 pound weight with a bunch of chains on it. And between the two, my retrieval rate's probably 90-95%.
Wow, a 1 pound weight with a bunch of chains on it.
Oh yeah,
and 50-foot.
It'll knock some stuff around, including your bait, hopefully.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, man. Like, I spent probably 6 to 7 years of my life after I watched Mike come wreck my fish. Just chasing the one. I literally fished with nothing but a swim bait. I pretty much had every swim bait that was made up until that time period on the deck of my boat, tied on, and fished them year round for 6 or 7 seasons, like in a row.
Yeah.
So I got a crash course and learning all kinds of applications and scenarios where each specific style of bait was getting attention, positive engagement, and when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you guys got to be willing to fail and learn from those failures.
Yeah.
Because it's high risk, high reward.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
How many days have you gone without a bite? Just learning those
Counting
big
today.
Those giant baits, because that's what I've just it's like you got to put the time in and it's so much fun though. I mean, you're out there committed to drawing strikes from the biggest fish.
Yeah.
But you got to go days without bites sometimes.
Sometimes. So in 2012, I had a pretty special run. This is when we were doing a lot of that raw GoPro footage, put the first Big Bass Streams DVD out there. This is when people used to buy DVDs. And I caught a ton of fish, including 17 over 10 that season alone in a 7-week span. It was wild.
That's unreal.
Right, so I was feeling myself, thinking like, man, I kind of know what I'm doing at this point. All right. Next pre-spawn season comes around. I think I went 15 trips without any engagement. They weren't following my bait. They weren't biting my bait. I was like, yo, what is going on here?
Wow. That's crazy.
It's still fishing.
Yeah.
It still is. And I was able to shake that off, thankfully. Went down to San Diego and actually stuck a couple of nice fish, a couple of 9-pounders, watch a buddy catch an 11. Lost a giant one. That was my buddy Jimmy. Big shout out to him. But that kind of got me back in the swing of things, got my mojo back. It's just like anything else.
Yeah.
And then we ran up north to this new lake, and that's when I had that encounter with the big girl.
Yeah.
So 2012, I had 17 over 10. In 2013, I only had 1 over 10, but she was 17.
17 pounds.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And if you're watching and listening right now, I want everybody to go watch that video of Oliver catching that one. I've watched it over the years. I've watched it a lot.
I think everybody has watched that video.
I think a lot of people has. It has 1 billion views on it. It's pretty awesome. Watching that. Watching that thing come in the net. It's pretty awesome. But then there's like a pause from when it's like off camera, and then it comes back on camera, and you just look at the sheer width and girth of that. It's disgusting.
It's obscene.
It's obscene.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Doesn't look real.
It's
Rizz, let's take one more question, and I wanna switch gears. Give us one more, Rizz. What do you got?
You got it. Theoretically, Dan wants to know what your best recommendation would be for a dirty water big swim bait.
Ooh, good one, Dan.
Really good one.
Shout out to Dan for a good question.
Would it surprise you to tell you it's the same one that you throw in the gin clear water?
It would surprise me.
So it was interesting watching Mike today on my electronics and watching fish. engage with us or not engage with us. But that technology has really taught me a lot in the last few years. And I'm watching fish travel yards, like tens of yards, to come engage with a 3-inch swim bait.
Even in dirty water.
In my home lake, which is 0 visibility.
Dude, that's I want to tell you right now, listen to me. If you're watching, dude, this is mind-blowing. This is a big one for tonight. Bookmark this one, Bri.
Yeah.
Dude, that's mind-blowing.
I'm telling you. Those fish are highly tuned predatory machines. Okay? They have to catch live prey to survive.
Right.
Have you guys tried catching anything in the wild with your bare hands in the water? Like, it's hard to do. it is hard to do. Even a tadpole. Like,
it's been a few years.
Yeah.
I haven't. You probably have, Mike. You in Vegas.
Oh yeah, I try. It's hard.
These fish know our clunky, drunk-looking fake fish are there. I'm telling you this.
Yeah.
Okay? So even the subtle style swimming baits, that thing is displacing a ton more water than my little 3-inch swim bait was.
Yeah.
Guarantee you. That fish knows it's there.
Right.
Okay, so there's always been this weird misconception, I feel, from a majority of anglers diving into big baits, is they feel that the fish need the clear water for it to work.
I've always believed that.
So here's the problem.
Yeah.
And you're a victim of this because you came to a very clear lake in Lake Casitas, and we were talking about some of the things that used to go down on that lake. Very, very unique. I've never seen it still to this day. Wolf packs of giants. So you're getting visual stimulation and confirmation that you've at least kind of got their interest. You don't get any of that in dirty water.
Wow.
Right. So
it's
you
not
bury yourself.
It's not with your eyes.
That's right.
It's not with your eyes. But with these new technologies of live sight and active target, all that stuff, now you're able to see that fish.
And thankfully, I grew up on a dirty lake, so I didn't have the luxury of clear water and visual engagement when I fished there. So I just threw the stuff anyway, and baits that even like experts at that time were telling me, oh, that bait only works in clear water. Dude, they're smoking it on my lake. I can't see a foot.
Right. Still finding it.
Dude,
it's big.
they were finding it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for sure. A big bait like that's putting off vibrations. It's
I don't
got a
think
presence.
we as anglers give those fish enough credit.
Right.
They're tuned in, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can find your little bait. They can find your big bait for sure.
That's mind-blowing. I'm telling you right now, if you're watching or listening, this is a mind-blowing moment for me that big baits are just as effective in dirty water. That opens up a whole lot of new water to me to throw a big bait. That's giant.
So you guys are watching those fish track it?
I have definitely in the past.
Did you have fish tracking today? Or they were just kind of getting out of the way?
Today, they were not doing anything with baits today. They didn't want to eat today.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say today was the first time I fished 38-degree water. So
yeah, that's cold.
It doesn't happen ever in Southern California.
No. It's almost hard water.
Now, if you guys want to see a cool video, I don't want to self-promote myself here too much. But I've got a YouTube video on the Big Bass Streams channel featuring the Garmin technology forward-facing and this exact scenario where I'm telling Mike how I'm sight fishing these fish in this creek, or this ditch on Clear Lake, and I'm casting out 70 feet, and I'm watching my swim bait dive down a depth about 5 feet, about mid-column, and I'm watching these fish suck from the edge on the opposite side of the creek and engage with the bait. And now I'm able to read their body language, just like we used to at Casitas, and try to trigger them to react and make a kill. And I'm doing this at like 6:30 in the morning, almost in the dark, 60 feet out, staring at my screen.
Right, because you're able to see that fish as it's
in real time.
responding.
Absolutely, I can see them. Like I can literally see like their fins perk up and their gill plates flare.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I caught 3 of them like that.
Crazy.
The proof is in the pudding. It's there.
It's crazy. Technology is crazy. I think when you combine it with big baits,
But don't
got a magic formula.
Don't feel like you need the technology at the same time, because obviously there's a lot of guys that don't have access to that.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can throw a big bait and trophy hunt from any platform or the bank.
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty of trophy bass fishing. It is within the reach of anybody that's capable of making a cast.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And a lot of our
You were downgraded when you caught that 17-pounder. You were commenting about that on your video that you didn't have your typical sonar with you that day.
Back then I didn't really use electronics in the way that I do now. I mean, that was 8 years ago now. And that technology is already dated then, but it was straight up 2D
right
back then. And you could see in that video the way I'm positioning the boat is as a shore angler.
Yeah.
Okay. Casting out in deep water, fishing uphill, feeling my bait, and talking about all those elements that we talked about. Like I can feel when that bait's coming through a specific type of cover. I'm anticipating it like not hopefully getting hung up in that brush I just felt the edge of. So I'm like pumping up the pace a little bit and getting it to flare up over that cover and just boom.
Oliver, I need to pin you on something here, and you just mentioned it, fishing uphill.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times now in the last couple of years where it is absolutely the deal. Like it is how you have to do it to get them to bite it. And talk about that a little, and also talk about like what having the experience as a bank angler did for you in learning to fish uphill, because when you're fishing from the bank, uphill is your only option.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So, man, there's so many different ways I can come at this. So, number one, I'm thankful that I had to fish my way up into the style of fishing I do now, because it was very meager, very basic early on. And like you said, I was forced to fish off the bank. And what I didn't realize at the time was all of that angle of approach with an artificial lure forced so much bottom contact and deflections and micro deflections, and adding a ton of action to my presentation that I really wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Right. That you don't get when you're throwing downhill.
Right. Yeah.
That's a huge element, especially with those subtle soft baits.
Yeah.
Right. We call it almost kind of like moonwalking, where it's like a slow sink soft bait is like barely making contact and like bumping bottom. You'll see it kind of kick out and then come back to center and kind of just float along the bottom. Like any one of those contact points and micro deflections could be a triggering moment.
Right. Yep. A lot like a crankbait.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have a hard time catching them on a crank most of the time in open water without imparting artificial deflection.
Right. Yep. You want that change of retrieve.
Right.
Is the trigger for the bite.
Yeah, so I understood how powerful of a trigger that was in my traditional fishing jigs, fishing worms, a lot of that slow, finessey stuff. And it just absolutely translated to the big bait.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I feel like that's why the glide bait has become so popular, is because it's such a freestyle type of lure that's fished mid-column, so more guys are throwing it. They're less afraid of snagging it and losing it, and it's a fun bait to fish that you can impart all kinds of different actions into, but you're creating all these little, different changes of pace and movement,
right?
And getting these fish to trigger. Like I'm super confident when I can get the interest of a fish, and there's more videos of me throwing that big eye slide at those clear lake fish. And I'm watching these things come up. I'm like, oh, look, one's coming up, and I'm going to catch this thing. And it's like playing with your weird friend that's got the cat.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you just sitting there waiting for him to get ready or whatever for a night out, and you're just sitting there messing with his cat with the little cat toy. And, dude, it's the exact same thing. The cat's not hungry.
Yeah.
It just wants to pounce on something because it's a killer.
Yeah.
Why were you taking a laser pointer to the club?
That actually, this is a great segue, and I want to change it up here, Brian, if that's okay. You mentioned a couple different styles of baits there.
Right.
You mentioned, some of the soft style baits, and then you mentioned glide baits. I think for me personally, this is the one big question I had tonight, and I know Brian did too, is I'm a little confused about what style bait to throw when. You know, so I've got in my boat, I have a box, not as many as you, but I have a box of glide baits, big glide baits. I have a box of big soft baits, big Huddleston style soft baits. I have Kitech style baits that are that big. And it's like, I'm always looking at like, besides mimicking the forage, what is the other determiner of when I throw a glide bait versus a triple jointed bait that just comes in fluidly? Right. You know, when do I want that big S? When do I want this? You know, when do I want a hard bait? When do I want a soft bait? Like, that's something I struggle with. Yeah. Is that just time on the water? Do I need to what?
It's not just time on the water, but time on the water it's almost everything, right? Because that's how you're gaining your experience. Yeah. And that's where these gut feelings that I get are drawn from. Yeah. Is from hopefully more successes than failures, but honestly, a lot of it's failure. Yeah. So I got to learn crash course style in that 6 to 7 year span where I threw nothing but a big bait. Yeah. Most importantly, when I probably shouldn't be throwing this bait. Yeah. That's almost as important as knowing when to throw it. Right. Yeah. Because then you find yourself in a tournament situation or it's some other context where, like, man, on paper it sounds great. Throw a big bait, catch 5 big fish. I don't have to call once. I'm going to win the tournament. Right. But determining when not to pick that up is probably the hardest decision.
It's a hard decision.
It is.
And we've seen guys win with it, and we've seen guys lose with it.
Totally.
I mean, Brandon Polnick, Carl Jochimson.
Who are those guys?
Dude. But if you watch them, tremendous success with a big bait.
For sure.
But also days when, they stunk it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But you start learning when those windows of opportunity appear. And for me, a lot of them are condition-based.
Right.
Timing-based.
Right.
And there's really no other way.
What are some of those?
Visibility is huge.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the traditional styles of fishing, right? When the wind's ripping, light's low, you got overcast, you feel pretty confident in being able to catch them on a moving reaction bait, right? Something maybe with some blades on it.
Yeah.
But you take that same bait and presentation when it's bluebird skies, glass calm,
right,
high vis, it's probably not going to work out as well.
Right.
So just take a lot of those same concepts and scale up.
Scale up. So the ultimate swim bait day in your mind is what?
Well, it depends, right? So, I mean, do you want to just go catch a fish on a swim bait, or do you want to catch the fish on a big bait?
Right.
Because all of my biggest fish have come on terrible big bait days, according to guys that came before me.
Yeah.
Like when I was on that run, I was catching a lot of these fish between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the wind was dead.
Yeah.
Sun was high. Guys are, oh, dude, he's not catching them on a swim bait.
Yeah, that's typically bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man, I kind of learned to embrace it.
Right.
I tend to catch the biggest ones in those conditions.
Huh.
But I catch fewer of them. But if I like some of the best days on just numbers of engagement, where I'm catching 3 fish, 4 fish, up to like 15, 20 fish days on an 8 to 10 inch bait, but none of them are over 8 pounds.
Right.
But I caught a ton of fish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just depends. Like, do you want to catch those 3 to 8 pounders? I would go fish pre-front, stormy conditions, wind, things that'll mask your presence. The hard baits tend to shine in those conditions. But if you want a big one, it's probably going to be a subtle soft bait that's not making a bunch of artificial noise, weird mechanical movements. Those tend to fool the truly big ones.
Yeah.
Whether that's a 7+ pounder here in New Jersey or a 12+ pounder in California.
Right.
Those really truly big trophy fish they're just on another level.
Yeah.
They've probably been fooled a couple times.
Yeah.
So they're extra wary.
They're smart.
They are, man.
They are smart fish.
They're at least conditioned.
Yeah, they're conditioned. I want to throw Pete. Pete, I want to ask you a question.
Pete?
I want to talk to Pete on this one. Pete, we have a fishery right in our backyard. It's the upper Chesapeake Bay, Susquehanna Flats. You spend a tremendous amount of time out there. You've had days where you've caught giants out there, some of the biggest fish in the Northeast. Why don't more guys throw big swim baits there, Pete?
You know, it's got a personality to it, and you know, I just got to go. Like, I consistently try. We've got a great herring run in the spring on the Chesapeake, and we see herring that are 10 inches long, 12 inches long in just massive numbers. And I promise you, I have scaled up repeatedly to try to trigger these fish with big swim baits, with a lot of big spinner baits, big giant bladed stuff, trying to match the hatch on those guys and catch those big uns. But honestly, what I have found, and it's weird anomaly here, is oftentimes the biggest fish are caught on the smallest baits, or finesse style baits. It's not always the case, right? We can power them up with a chatterbait. There's many times when those bigger 2.5 square bill crankbaits, the bigger ones, are the deal. But like we had, just in this recent tournament in the fall, we had our biggest fish. We had a 9.7 caught, Oliver, in that body of water, and we've had 10 pounders weighed in tournaments. And both of those big ones were caught on a finesse worm.
I believe it. No, it happens. But I feel like that's often a misrepresentation of the stats. Okay, let's break this down. Those big fish get caught on standard baits like that. It's like, honestly, like back in the day, like going back to like Bassmaster magazines, and they break down the whatever most effective baits for double-digit bass. A lot of times it was a jig. Like, it overwhelmingly was a jig.
Yeah.
But that, to me, I realized was a misrepresentation, because it wasn't guys like flipping and pitching and casting jigs. It was guys bed fishing with jigs.
Right.
So that right there was a misrepresentation of the actual like power of a jig for double-digit bass, to me.
Right.
Because, dude, I love fishing jigs, and I felt like I was pretty damn good with a jig. Caught 0 double digits with it.
Right.
But I don't bed fish either.
Right.
So I think were those fish caught because it preferred the small bait, or is it because everybody was fishing a small bait?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, those were certainly anomalies, and it's odd, but I try, and there are times big top waters can be a really big thing down on the Chesapeake. Like I said, the bigger size crankbaits. I have consistently tried to put the big. When I say big, I haven't spent a tremendous amount of time with a glide bait. It's one of the things actually on my hit list for 2021 is to get more comfortable with the bigger glides and use those down there. But I've thrown Alabama rigs quite a bit, big 6 and 8 inch, hollow belly style swim baits and 360s, that kind of thing down there. And I spend 100 days down there a lot of times, but it's odd how oftentimes down there the biggest ones are caught on the finesse jig, and the small baits. But I find it to be a personality of the waterway. There's other lakes I go to where it's all big baits, and that's definitely the deal. So I don't know. That's just been my experience on that bay.
Yep, and we have a lot of questions stacking up. Let's go to Rich and hit some rapid fires. Go ahead, Rich. Fire it away.
Rizzo.
Rapid fire. All right. The first one that we're going to go to, in tough conditions, this question comes from David Prince. He wants to know, tough conditions, are you going with a soft plastic or a wooden jointed swim bait?
Describe these tough conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone's tough conditions could be my prime conditions.
Tough conditions for you.
Oh, man. I mean, that's lack of wind and high visibility. I'm probably going to go with something soft.
More
no
subtle.
noise.
More subtle.
More subtle.
Yeah.
Noise the bigger factor there?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of my early successes with the big bait when I was starting to really build confidence were with hard baits. Very hard to crack that 8-pound mark even where I lived.
Rich, what did Valdez describe a hard bait as last night in the group text? Okay, good. Back to you. I thought he might remember. It was pretty funny, but sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good.
Thanks,
hard
Rich.
baits are great for catching numbers of quality bass. Those 4 to 7 pound fish especially love eating a hard bait.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of fun for that reason. They're a great learning tool. But I see a lot of guys hit that plateau on the size of the fish they're catching, because you tend to want to fish a hard bait a little faster, and frankly, they just don't fool the big ones. And if you go back to those special scenarios like on Lake Casitas where you've got wolf packs of mixed fish, right? 5-pounders are the small ones.
Yeah.
And the big blobs in the middle are like, 8, 9, 10-pounders. And then the one that was in the back is like obscene. But the problem is in those scenarios, and it does happen actually quite a bit everywhere, not to that degree, but fish will school by size, and the smaller, more agile fish often get to your bait first.
Right.
And they would often get those hard baits.
Right.
Those, but slower, more subtle, bigger soft bait would almost deter some of those bites to give yourself a shot at the big fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we got some more.
What else you got, Rizz?
Next question is going to come from none other than Epic Eric, and he wants to know if you had to pick one glide bait for the rest of your days on the water, which one would it be?
Oh,
man, I'm glad I don't have to make that choice.
Oh, Eric, good question.
I mean, there is no such thing. They are all uniquely different.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And I've had some incredible memories on a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I can't pick one.
You can't pick
The
one.
good news is most of them are good.
Good news is this is America, and you don't have to.
That's
America.
Well,
Let's go.
top 5. Give us your
top
your
five?
top 5.
Oh man. Well, shoot, I won 100 racks on Ice Slide 262. I caught 56 pounds for my best 5 on a Depths 250.
The Depths is a good one. Depths is a
Absolute.
solid one.
Yeah.
Easy to fish.
Hinkle trout accounted for some incredible fish in Texas and California. What is that, 3? Anything big is fun to throw.
Yeah.
I mean, I've caught fish on the Roman Made Mother. We were throwing that new DRT Frenzy. It's like a 16-inch bait. And my boys at home have been, getting wrecked by fish.
16?
16-inch bait. Yeah.
Get the hell out of
But
here.
some of the challenges that I kind of like alluded to them with, about baits of that caliber is like good luck getting the hook into them and good luck getting them in the boat.
Right.
That is just a big lure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of leverage. It's just a lot going on, and your odds are not looking good.
Right.
But yeah, it's still cool to have a big fish try to eat that
unreal.
thing down.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah, number 5. I don't know, man. Fill in the blank. The Gancraft series of glide baits are
Joint
great
claw.
baits. Yeah,
Claw's
Joint
a good
Claw.
one. Yeah.
Then there's a ton of them. I mean, a lot of the small handmade stuff. I caught a lot of fish on a Jerry Rago Gladiator. Luckily, we have amazing options now.
Yeah.
2021, and your options in the big bait
Yeah, that's opened
world.
up, right?
Oh my God. Think back to 2004 when you were at Casitas.
yeah.
What were you even throwing back then? An Osprey, maybe?
Yeah, Huddleston.
And a Hud, okay.
Yeah, Huddleston and Osprey, I think that was it. Very small market.
Yeah, maybe a triple trout by then?
Yeah. But now, the resources are so, like, you go to...
The technology, man, it's crazy.
I mean, Tackle Warehouse has a whole page dedicated
Sure.
to glide.
I was using saltwater rods to throw these baits.
Yeah.
And inshore saltwater reels because there was no swim bait market in the fishing industry.
Right. It's crazy. That's crazy.
I got a follow up. Earlier, you were talking about the mag draft.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you. I know you don't like to pick one color, but one color.
White.
Right. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White back shad, that new white pearl color. White's just a great color.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything eats it.
Yeah.
Crappie eat it.
St. Chris Zaldane have so much success on that color bait.
Do you throw the bigger one often?
Honestly, I probably threw the 10-inch more than any of them.
Is that right?
I actually felt like I caught more and bigger fish on the 10 than I did even the 8. In my time in Texas, like sometimes I'd be on a personal training session trying to teach somebody that's new to big bait fishing how to throw these baits, and like frankly, throwing a 6-ounce bait is not within most people's wheelhouse.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, this person, whether they're younger or sometimes females or just not even grown men, honestly, that didn't have the mechanics and that confidence to throw an 8-foot rod with 30-pound line and a 6-ounce bait. I'm like, maybe it's better to just put an 8-inch bait in their hands. You know, on paper, that should get them more bites, be easier. Dude, the 10-inch would smoke the 8-inch every
right?
time.
Wow.
Even with 3-4 pound fish.
Right.
They would almost swim by the 8-inch and come eat the 10.
Wow.
There's definitely a size factor when you're throwing these baits. Like, size is a thing.
Size matters.
It does.
You heard it there first.
Well, what about color? We were talking about your number one color, but you know, I see less color options in a lot of these bait SKUs. They'll be like 4 or 5 instead of like 20, as opposed to other swim baits. Does color matter less in the big bait category to draw strikes?
From my experience, I would say yes. And the bigger the bait is, the less the color tends to matter. Action, profile, style of swim are way more important factors.
They trump color.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my buddy's making sure they got to get that purple hue crappie. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
Typically,
what I
it
figured.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way you're fishing that bait's way more important than what color it is.
Yeah, they could throw any Chad. They didn't have to go out of their way to get that purple one.
That's right.
Yep.
Chad.
And just to roll another one at you, you know, you listed a lot of glide baits there. Is there like a water temperature that you're seeing in any seasons really where that glide is shining for you and performing a lot better?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay.
I mean, some of my best fishing is in the mid 50s.
Okay.
So, but at the same time, like, you know, Justin Pirelli, one of the guys up here in the Northeast, is asking me like, "Hey, how do you fish the ice slide in 37-degree water?" This is a real question he asked me one time. I'm like, "Dude, I don't know."
They don't make it where you live.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually has caught them down to temps in that range.
Really?
But here's the thing about that bait too. It's an ABS injected plastic bait. It's more buoyant than many of the other glide baits. And if you actually tune it with changing out hooks and stuff, you can actually get it to float in warm water. And you can actually tune it to suspend just like a 110.
Wow. Right.
And literally, I catch a lot of fish, especially as it gets colder and I feel like these fish aren't willing to chase as much. And I know they're there. I will literally pause it for a long, extended period of time, just like you would a jerkbait. And guess what? Tick.
Yeah.
Same bite.
Oh, man.
It's one of those fundamental, you know, concepts, techniques, and methods scaled up.
Right.
Yeah.
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 It's like an oversized jerkbait.
It really is. And now, if you have your live scope pointed at it, you can actually just wait until one swims up on it while it's sitting, which is the crazy thing.
Oh, man.
So, aside from hardware, are you using suspend dots or strips or doing any?
All of it.
All of
Yeah,
it.
and even
Whatever it takes.
A lot of times, these things are so finely tuned to do a certain thing that change something as simple as changing the hook will affect it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it's just up to us to,
And water
make
temp
those adjustments.
has a big
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Riz, what else we got coming through?
The lone goat wants to know, have you noticed a difference geographically from the West Coast to the East Coast in how your cadence fishing these baits has to be to attract bites?
No. Fish are fish. The triggers are the same. If anything, the rate of engagement is higher because these fish haven't been conditioned to it. Your fish are dumber.
Yeah.
Wow.
They are. They are.
As far as, you know, presenting a big bait
Yeah.
to this population of fish that hasn't been exposed to it.
Yeah. And we talked about it on the boat today. I think there are big bait guys in a lot of states out here on the East Coast that are keeping it really they're keeping it super hush hush.
For sure.
I know of a few. We know of a few guys that have been doing it, keeping it. I mean, these guys are so psycho. They won't run a GoPro, nothing.
No.
You know, so it's being done, but for sure they're less pressured out here.
Yeah.
They haven't seen it. So
that was a good question. We had JGB Jr. over on Facebook was asking that about the bass getting conditioned to these, and you're seeing that out on the West Coast. And how are you overcoming that out there when a lot of guys are throwing them?
By not paying attention to what anybody's doing and just figuring it out on my own. I'm not chasing anybody's bites. I'm not chasing trends. I'm either fishing something brand new. And in the early days, I was trying everything as it hit the market, trying to get that edge. And that's become a little bit easier for me lately. Like, I get to test a lot of baits in the development phase. So that's one way, is by staying completely ahead of the curve, by showing them something completely new, or going the opposite, showing them something that's cycled out of use.
Right.
And what is old is new again. And that applies to traditional stuff
I
too.
believe that. I believe
Yeah,
that big time.
spinnerbaits came back.
Man.
The
Big
hula
time.
popper came back.
No.
The jitterbug.
What happened to Texas rigging? Nobody does that anymore, or what?
Straight
hell
up
yeah.
Texas rigging.
Yeah, just not a worm, but plastics.
Man, Rizzo won one this year, Texas rigging. Shout out to Rizzo.
Hey, I got people cycling in and out of the Zoom here. I've had viewers coming on. Let's bring somebody in.
All right, let's bring somebody in.
Let's see how this works.
Is the cool part of Bash You Live, if you're watching tonight. And, of course, if you're a subscriber, you get the bonus of a mystery patch in here. So, Brian, what do you got? You got a couple people rummaging through here right now? You want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, you know, this is always like a box of chocolates or
All
or
right.
dog crap.
While we're waiting for someone to zoom in, want to remind everybody you're watching a brand new BU Live. We got Oliver and I on tonight. We're talking big baits. So many good. This one's going to be hard to go back, Rizz. And, you know, we go back through these and we pinpoint, like, little tips that are good. There's too many on this one. You might just have to play the whole thing over and over and over so people can remember these tips. It's a great show tonight. By the way, Pete, if people are watching over on Facebook, if they're not a subscriber to BU and they're watching us right now and like, dude, where has this kind of info been all my life? They can subscribe to this, right? What can they do?
Well, I think everybody that's watching over on Facebook has subscribed because I just went over and checked our subscriptions and we've got a pile of new people that have come over during the show.
Yeah.
So welcome,
right welcome, guys.
How's it going, guys? Everybody that's watching over on Facebook.
All right, turn that off.
Turn your volume down, Joseph. But yeah, we've got new people coming in. Welcome. You can go over to bashu.tv. You can subscribe, and you can try it right now. 60 days.
All right, Joe, you got to turn your computer off. That's the show echoing in the background.
Awkward silence.
Come on, don't ruin
I love it.
Don't ruin it for everybody.
No, I like awkward silence.
Yeah.
Most shows don't like it. I love it. I think it's the best.
This show is real.
Yeah, this show's real.
Oh, it's live, baby.
All right, Dr. Stackhouse, you got a question for us, boss?
Yeah, I wanted to know what Oliver's go-to soft bait was. Soft swim bait.
Oh, go-to soft swim bait. It's a good question.
I mean, lately it's either been a Defiant 210 or 10-inch mag draft. Those have been in heavy rotation the last couple seasons.
Defiant 210.
Yeah, 8 1/4 inches long.
I'd like to see
Manageable.
one of those.
Whoa.
You have one of those?
Excuse me while I whip this out.
I'd like to see a Defiant 210. I know the mag draft, but I don't know if I know the Defiant. You know, I'd like to see that.
I remember, Mike, you came back with the California swim bait.
Yeah, through line.
And
Early
the
through lines.
Yep.
Oh, and that was so. I love throwing those baits. Once you turned me on to those, you know, they were such a great category to get started and learn how to get a swim bait bite. You know.
Yeah, it was awesome for me. It was the baby E's,
the Eagles,
the Eagles, those early through lines. They were awesome, and fish hadn't seen them, you know. So when I was able to, I brought a lot of them back, and I was using them through the tours, and had so much success with them over the years. And I'll be honest, I've kind of forgot about them. I think I need to go back to that, Pete. I think I need to go back and bring that out a little bit, you know?
I think, remember the number one advantage of those through lines was the hooking percentage.
Yeah.
Like when you got a bite, that bait would just slide up the line and that fish was caught.
Man, that's kind of funny you guys are talking about that.
Oh, look at that!
That's a real thing. So here's a 210. It's rigged on a muskie leader because those muskies seem to like chomping on that thing too.
Wow.
And here's its bigger brother. It's a 247.
Oh my gosh! Heck
But
yeah, dude.
one of the key features, as we were discussing impromptu, is that this bait is designed to separate from the hook, and those fish lose all the leverage of either that 4 ounces or the 6 ounces. And the hookup percentage and the landing percentage goes up dramatically.
Wow.
And those have caught fish.
So awesome.
Like that one especially.
Yeah.
Remember you guys asked me what color? What color is that?
Look at that. Look at there. There it goes right there. And this bait's awesome. It's got a Huddleston-like tail, but it's almost even more bulbous. It's got more of a bigger wedge to it.
It's interesting. I'd like to actually have you throw those baits around a little bit this week, and you can see, or you can feel that thing is pulsing and pushing water.
Yeah.
But without any artificial noise.
Wow.
So it's subtle, but it's got big presence, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
What are those on there, Oliver? Are those fluorocarbon leaders?
Yeah, they're 130-pound fluoro leaders.
130.
Yeah.
No
those
kidding.
those muskies got some teeth. So I like keeping my baits on my line and those fish hooked up.
What's the price point on a soft body swim bait like that?
Let's see. The 247 retails for $100. That's that perch colored one.
Whew.
Okay, and then the 210 is 60. And that might seem steep to you guys, but honestly, the value represented in one of these baits more than justifies it for me, as well as the durability.
Yeah, how durable are they?
Man, I've been fishing them for muskies and pike, like on purpose.
Really?
And I've actually made a point not to repair the soft plastic cuts and tears with like Mended or any of the soft glues, just to show that, like, dude, these things are still holding up.
Yeah.
It's really not anything anybody needs to be afraid of, especially when you guys are fishing in waters with SOX species, right, or other kinds of bycatch. Like, dude, these things take a licking.
Yeah.
What'd you just say? SOX. You say it.
Muskies.
All right.
Pike. Pickerel.
We call them miscellaneous around here.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous.
It's just everything. It's just miscellaneous.
I got to tell you, I'm looking at this one, and, you know, we were talking earlier about there's big bait even out here. And, Pete, this is like the size of the perch in my lake.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of yellow perch, dude. In this lake right here, Lake X, there are so many yellow perch that are that size.
Yeah.
And you know, dude, there's giants in there.
Oh, yeah.
They will eat this thing.
Oh, yeah,
allegedly.
They will eat this thing.
They will eat it.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go now.
Let's go now. Hey, Joe, do you have any more questions? You good?
Oh yeah, I'm good. You guys are good.
All right, cool, man. Hey, give Rich your subscriber info, dude. You want a $25 Gills gift card?
Okay.
And,
That's a good question, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for popping in.
Guys, I appreciate it.
Great question. That was a good one.
You got to set aside a couple $100 for some of those soft plastic swim baits.
Man, here's the
I have
thing,
a few of them
guys.
myself.
I lost more money in tackle today trying to catch a dink.
It's true.
Seriously.
I think you did.
I
Yeah.
did, man. And I
There's
always...
dark sleepers all over the bottom of
man.
Big and Little Darby.
All bad. Yeah, I lose very few big baits, especially when you're prepared and you got the right gear, you got the right line, you got lure retrievers.
Yeah, that's a great pause, Brian the Carpenter. I'd like to do this if you're okay with it. If you're watching and listening, we're going to take a little break. We're going to take a pee break. We're going to get a water break. And when we come back, we're going to be diving in to that exact topic. I want to start talking about rod, reel, line. We're going to start talking about the tackle to fish these big baits. So hang in there with us. When we come back, more Bash U.
Moment on the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together, the One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse. Everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful than others.
Giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Gotta keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. One box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.
Moment on the water not spent.
Yes. Hey, we're back, everybody. Some of us, mostly just me. Everybody else is just having a good time. Yeah, you good, Mike?
We're having our own show, BTC.
Right. Oh, that's right. Let me turn your mic on. That might help.
All right, there you go. Welcome back, everybody. You are watching a brand new Bash U Live here on Tuesday night. We've got the one and only Oliver Nye with us, and we're talking big baits. Man, my mind is blown already talking about this stuff, thinking about the possibilities of what could happen with some of these lures.
What does your bass tackle box look like?
Oh, my God.
Look at that.
Look at that. That's worth more than my tiny boat.
It is so cool that bass eat stuff like this, man.
Dude.
Look at that. That's incredible.
Everybody needs to experience it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
What is your most expensive bait in your possession?
I mean, retail?
Sure.
A Roman-made mother was like $450 retail, but because of demand on certain baits, like there was one point I was fishing a Matt Lures glide bait that he made, and I caught some fish on it early in Texas, and we threw one up on eBay, and it went for a G.
Holy smokes!
We were like, "Whoa, hold up, what?"
Was it?
Wait, Texas money?
Oil money.
Yeah, that's oil money.
I had a lot of Texas clients.
I think Epic Eric probably picked that one up.
Wow, Epic Eric.
I mean, those are $100 a pop. Those eye slides. I mean, it's really not that much money. I mean, we fill a little shopping cart of just miscellaneous tackle, and that's $100.
Yeah.
In no time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hey, yeah, we got somebody in the Zoom Did we address that yet?
No.
We have a big hairy man in the Zoom.
Big hairy man coming through on Zoom. How you doing, Tim?
Yeah, I'm the one that was concerned about the color hues of my KGB crappie.
That's a dope bait, by the way. Big shout out to
Yeah, so I had a purple one. I cast it off, and I ended up buying like a golden shiner color, and I hated it. And I was trying to find the purple one. So Brian's been busting my stones about that ever since. But the purple one looks really good in the water, so it's a confidence thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did have a question for you, Oliver. So a lot of the fishing that I'm doing around here, like, you know, you've seen it, kind of shallow little ponds. It's a lot of visible structure. Are you fishing different glide baits in open water versus structure? Are you looking for a different action or different profile, or, you know, are you kind of doing the same thing, either open water or in cover?
It's pretty much the same thing. I'm trying to put it where I think one lives.
What about the snaggability? Like, you know, man, when you start throwing those things in harm's way in that blow down tree, or, you know, are there certain baits that come through that stuff better? Or
Oh, yeah. I mean, even now you got weedless options, which never existed 10, 15, 20 years ago. So
what's
you
that
can
look
literally
like?
throw a completely weedless soft plastic bait into the thickest of cover.
Right.
But
whose do you like?
I mean, honestly, we were taking those mag drafts and cutting the harnesses out with a razor and taking a 10-aught beast hook. Now they got a 12-aught, which fits beautifully on the 10-inch. And, you know, gluing up what we needed to with some Mend It and then fishing those things weedless. Like, that was an easy fix for us. But Working Class Zero has really popular baits now that are designed to be fished weedless. Nate Baits makes a weedless one. But there's actually open hook options like that Defiant you guys were looking at earlier. Those are rigged for mid-column and up presentations, but out of the box it comes stock with a double jig hook system with exposed hooks. But for some reason that bait comes through wood especially well and rock. Like, you can fish it like a weedless bait but still have those open exposed hooks for a high hookup percentage. So there's a ton of really fishable options out there, but ultimately, like, that's on us as anglers. That's like the guys that see Stephen Curry dribbling a basketball and they think they can walk into a sporting goods store, buy that same basketball, and all of a sudden they can dribble like Steph Curry.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You've got to become adept as an angler and impart action and control the delivery and presentation of these baits and keep them out of harm's way if necessary.
Yeah.
But once again, it goes back to being in a position to where you're not scared to lose it.
Yeah.
You got to fish these things, man.
Yeah.
And you will break baits. You will cast them off. But if you stop fishing, you know, soft plastic baits and tungsten and jigs and this and that and the third, like, you'll probably come out ahead and not spend as much money on tackle if you really go deep into this big bait stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is everything with the Steph Curry comparison. Just the skill level to be able to do that. I mean, we see that with conventional baits, right? I mean, Mike can do a lot more with a chatter bait with cross hangs under a dock and whatnot than I can, you know? So I remember getting in the boat after a Bass U seminar with Chris Zaldain before we took him to the airport, and the dude was skipping a mag draft up into the laydowns. And I'm like, how on earth is this coming through? And he's just talking about the dynamics of the bait and everything. But at the end of the day, it's because he'd done it a million times.
Yeah, people,
you know?
Especially with the bigger baits, people have this misconception that, man, I spent $100 on this thing. It better do everything for me.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Throw it
man.
out and just magic happens all by itself, right?
Dude, it's not the baits, guys. Because you put the bait in the wrong hands, and it might as well be a hunk of crap.
Oliver, I have a question for you, because this is, you know, Carl Jacobson, you know, does some great stuff on glide baits for us at Bass U, and you guys got to go check that out. And you mentioned Chris Zaldain. I remember him blowing our hair back with a lot of his swim bait conversation, Mike, on a show we had. Similar to what I'm hearing from Oliver right now. But the reason why I'm saying this is Carl has a strategy of when he's using the glide or the glide, how's he say it?
Glide live.
But he gets the bite. I mean, he's in high gear. He cranks the bait in, and he swings the fish in the boat. There's no hesitation, no pause. That's his strategy on how to consistently land fish. What's your advice on to give an angler the best way to land a fish on a big bait?
That's a good question.
Now, are we talking largemouth or smallmouth or spots?
Oh, do them all, man.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. All three.
We're talking 3 different things here.
Flatheads.
Oh, man. Hardest fighting fish I ever caught on a swim bait, by the way.
Flathead
out of Lake Fork. That was fun.
35 pounds?
No, I was only 19.
Oof, that's still big, dude.
Dude, it was pulling.
Oh, yeah.
Like nothing 20. I've ever hooked. But if you guys, there's literally hundreds of videos to reference on YouTube, and you can see exactly how I'm fighting these fish and the mechanics behind it. And here's the basis of it with largemouth. Right, they're big bucket mouths. So when these fish eat a big bait, they typically have it at least partially in their mouth. So with hard baits, it's usually the front hook in the jaw, back hook wherever else. Soft baits, they tend to inhale, and your hooks are in the mouth. I use that big parachute of a mouth against them. And if you watch my videos, I hit them hard if it's a soft bait, or I lean into them if it's a hard bait, and I literally have my drags completely locked, and I'm fishing heavy enough line to where I'm trying to break the handle and keep that rod at a 90 degree and rod tip down to keep them from jumping, because in those days, especially with fixed weight baits, if that fish clears its head out of the water shaking with a heavy bait, it's not looking good.
Right.
All right, so I just pretty much slap them straight to the boat. And every situation is different. What Carl describes there is an ideal scenario where it's hooked well, right? Or sometimes when it's not hooked well. And I've learned the hard way too. Like one time I successfully bounced a 10.5, like without like any like breaking a sweat really. This is the first time I actually stepped up from 25-pound mono to 30-pound mono. So that confidence in that 5-pound cushion was just like, oh man, like this is the deal. They'll still eat it. Like next cast, boom! Oh my God, bigger fish, and this thing's like where those little tape marks are, and it's coming in hot, and its head comes out of the water, and I go to boat flip that one too, and you can see it in slow mo. Like as I lift it out of the water, it just does the head shake, and it was pinned on one treble. It literally hits the side of the gunnel and like almost into the boat and bounces off. And that thing was probably 11, 12 pounds.
Oh my God.
So I've learned the hard way. Every situation is different. There are times when your best bet is probably to try to boat flip it. And especially when it's not hooked well. Like if those fish jump, like I'm helping them in.
Yeah.
Like they're halfway in.
Yeah.
At the boat. And then there are other times when, I mean, hopefully you got a net, man.
Yeah.
Right, but here's the thing, like I've gotten so many comments over the years of how to properly land these fish, and from all these internet experts that have done it so much, right? But if they actually saw how many fish I've lost fishing solo, fumbling with a net, losing my focus on this big fish on the end of my line, and typically as I go back and review the footage, I see like I'm out of control. I'm actually forcing that fish coming out of the water because my rod's up here as I'm reaching like this.
Yeah.
Disaster.
All right.
Get in the boat, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the fish's feeling is going to be hurt a little bit extra from hitting the bottom of the boat, but.
Right.
And the other thing is, anybody that's got the time to be given advice on a YouTube video, they got to find something to do.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me, but
I get that part, but they just got to find something else to do. They need another hobby.
Brian fights all of them, by the way.
Fight them. Second, meet me at Second Woods.
It's just so silly, so silly. Stu, thanks for hanging with us, man. You look very comfortable. Probably our most comfortable guest we've ever had.
I hope you're wearing pants.
Pantalones.
Yeah, for the Zoom stuff, so I got pants on. But yeah, thank you guys for appreciate it.
Thanks
for being part of the program. I could see that well-worn Bass University hat
Yeah, actually, I'm a graduate of the Bass University now. I'm not a senior anymore. I'm a graduate, so I think that's 5 years strong now.
Woo!
Outstanding.
Are there like Van Wilders of the Bass U?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of Van Wilders.
Yeah. We had a couple last week.
You see the weed smoke on up in the back?
You never know.
You never know.
Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
I want to get into, because you started tapping around at it, and I want to get back to this. I had two big things on my notes. This is the other big one. And it comes directly from that experience I had out on the West Coast back in 2004.
Okay.
Dude, I showed up out there with a jig rod, like a jig rod and like a Carolina rig rod, and I'm like, come on.
This is fascinating to me. I always wanted to hear this experience.
Oh yeah, I showed up out there and talking to Matt and those guys and
Newman.
Yeah, talking to Matt Newman.
Shout out to Matt Newman.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Newman. Shout out to the Bailey brothers. So I showed up out there like, bring some of your heavier rods. I'm like, cool. Bring my jig rod. bring my Carolina rig rod. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So this question stems from all the way back then about being unprepared, not having the right stuff. And I want to go through it with you, and again, I know this is hard because there are so many. Look at all these facets of swim baits we've got here. But guys, girls watching right now, they're enthralled. They're on the edge of their chair. They cannot wait to start throwing big baits for the first time. I know it. I can see through the camera.
For good reason.
I can see through the camera. But now their question, just like mine, is what's the right rod? What's the right reel? What's the right line? I heard you throw mono out there. That's unusual. I want to hear about that. Let's start with rod and reel.
Sure. Give me a bait.
Let's go middle of the road. Brian the Carpenter, let's go middle of the road. Let's say
let's go middle of the road. But it's middle of the road bait.
Let's go
8-inch soft bait.
Yeah, let's go 8-inch soft bait. Let's go Defiant. Let's go Mag Draft.
Right, 8-inch soft bait across the board.
Yep.
Okay. Let's take a step back. Go back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to that dynamic that I described of how they typically swallow a soft bait.
Yeah.
Right, and they close their mouths on the bait a lot of times.
They do. By the way, I cannot believe how many from that trip where you could not see the HUD. It was gone, and they were eating it head first.
This guy fished the mecca of bass fishing. Trophy bass fishing in its golden era with like all the local hammers, and he got to experience things that 99.9% of bass fishermen never will or ever will again.
It was amazing,
dude. That's so dope.
It was amazing.
So so with the soft bait, right? Typically, especially those early ones, are single hooks, single jig hooks.
Yep.
So it was easier for them to actually vacuum suck those things into their mouths and close their mouths shut on it. So the same thing happens when we're fishing a Texas rigworm or a jig in a trailer, right? They eat the bait, they close their mouth on it. So what do we do as anglers? We set the hook, right? And you need to set the hook to create forward momentum to get penetration on that hook point.
Right.
Because if you just try to wind those fish, like, dude, they've just got their mouth closed on it.
They just open up.
You never penetrate.
Yeah.
So especially on a big bait, you're actually hitting them with these big hook sets. And, dude, I love that style of fishing for that reason, is I literally get to put every ounce into these hook sets. Hit them hard.
Yeah.
To get that mouth to pop open so that bait can move forward and penetrate to the barb.
Yeah.
So you, just like fishing a jig rod, or I'm sorry, a jig or a soft plastic, I want a faster taper rod to help with that hook penetration.
Fast taper. Yeah.
Fast taper.
Yep.
So I want a stiff rod.
Yep.
So that thing moves.
Right. Yeah, because you want to jack.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
jacking. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So the jig principle.
Same thing.
Converts
scaled up.
Right. So, but longer rod typically, right? We're talking.
Yeah. The longer rod you have, the more leverage you have on both casting ability and ability to move line.
Right.
So a longer rod is advantageous.
Yeah.
And really what limited rod lengths, especially back then, were stupid tournament rules.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
The things that DiPalma is dominating everybody in the 70s.
Right.
Right. Everybody enacted these minimum or maximum lengths, and that hindered swim bait rod evolution, in my opinion. It hindered everything else, honestly.
Yeah.
But those kind of, like, that's why so many swim bait rods are at 7'11", 8 foot. When there are a lot of times, especially when I'm fishing open water, I want to make a long cast. An 8'6", a 9 foot rod is advantageous.
Wow. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if you're fishing tight to cover and you're actually fishing heavy target oriented stuff with a big bait, fishing docks, a 7'6" rod, 7'9" rod would be more advantageous because
Right.
you know it helps facilitate little backhand roll casts, skip casts,
Right.
and, you know, just accurate placement.
Yep.
So, but they're all fast tapered.
Right.
When I'm fishing a soft bait.
Yep. Soft. Yep.
If it's soft, it's gonna be a fast taper rod.
Fast taper, soft bait.
Yep.
Now give me the same rod choice if we're talking glide bait now, a hard glide bait, a depths 250.
So how does a jig rod differ from a crankbait or a jerkbait rod?
Yeah, jerkbait, crankbait rod's softer. You want to let them get the bait a little more. You're not jacking. You're sort of reeling into them more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you got a hard body.
Right.
With super sharp trebles.
Yeah.
Oftentimes multiples.
Yeah.
And this is something I learned through experience. And this is one of the ways I've benefited from watching myself fish and succeed, but most importantly, fail time and time again. Like, no one's watched themselves fish more than I have. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah.
And I can go back and recall what I thought I was perceiving versus what was actually happening, because I could take myself out of that moment, out of that perspective.
Yeah.
And there are times, especially throwing a big bait, a big hard bait, or at the end of a long cast and I'm fishing it around a big bridge column or something, and I'm anticipating it gliding out away from the column, gliding into the column, and I feel it like, did I just hit the column? Or what was that? And that moment of hesitation allowed that fish to just get that bait and those hooks. And every time that happened, those fish were mangled. Like, dude, they had both hooks in them.
You landed them. No problem.
I landed
they ate
them
it
every time.
Right.
Versus, especially in those clear water fisheries where I could see it happen a lot of times, like, I'm just like anybody else with a frog, you know, first bite of the season, like, you're probably going to miss it.
Yeah.
You just get excited in that moment. You see a big white flash. It's like, oh, my God.
Those are the ones that are barely hooked. Those are the ones that'll jump and throw.
Totally.
It. Yeah.
So when I got these guys on the boat, on the Dream Machine, and they're specifically trying to catch the biggest bass of their life, like, these are experiences that I can share with them and be like, look, trust me, it sounds crazy, but we're throwing a hard bait here. Do not swing.
Right. You're not trying to rip his face
especially
off.
when they've seen videos of me jacking these fish.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that I'm fishing a soft bait.
Right.
Or they don't realize it anyway.
Right.
And it's just two different mechanics.
Yeah.
And as much as I love hitting those fish with a big hard hook set, I love landing them and holding them up even more.
Yeah. 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 So
a
hard
softer
bait,
rod.
Softer rod. And
for the same reasons.
Right.
Right.
Like a crankbait.
Yeah.
Like a jerkbait.
You don't need to hit them with this crazy big hook set because they typically hook themselves, number one. And number two, that softer rod just keeps them pinned better.
Yeah. A little bit of a delay.
Absolutely.
Keeps them pinned better.
And especially with smallies and spots because they tend to dog more. And their mouths are smaller, so you don't have that same vacuum effect and advantage.
Right.
And the smallies jump like a mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, you just have maybe one hook in their mouth or in the corner, but a lot of times they're both smallies and spots will ram baits and just foul hook themselves on the side of the head, side of the face.
Yeah.
And if you just try to power them in, like I did early on in my trophy smallmouth fishing the last 5 years, I just pulled hooks.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to make an adjustment, go to a much softer rod, and not just full on winch them to the boat.
Right. Interesting. I want to continue with reel now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, same thing. Back then I was undermatched with my reels.
Right.
My reels were too little. I remember using big round reels.
Yep.
You were talking about that earlier. But here we are in 2021. What's a good all-around reel for these different types of swim baits? Is there one? What about ratio? Slow, fast?
All factors.
Yeah.
All important factors.
Yeah.
And man, the guys that are new to fishing, number one, welcome to the greatest activity on planet Earth.
Yeah.
But you guys have no idea how far technology and advancement in gear has come in that span of time. 17 years. Crazy.
Yeah.
The only reels back then that were capable of holding enough line to present these baits were like that Abu Garcia 6500
big
class
Abus,
fish.
big Calcuttas.
Yeah, the Calcutta 400.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. But man, they held enough line. But dude, their drag systems were like this big. You got like what 12 pounds of drag pressure.
Right.
You go to set the hook and the line would just slip out.
Yeah.
You literally couldn't get enough drag pressure to penetrate some of these fish sometimes, let alone control them in the manner that I want to control them.
Right.
So now you got so many options, and those early years of like the low profile, like guys like myself loved them at first, and they handled like those mid-sized fish no problem. Man, all it took was one horror story experience, and I went straight to that bigger round reel. And at the time, it was I want to say it was a TE 400. These big, crazy high efficiency gears, but like enough drag pressure and guts to where I can actually control those fish.
Yeah.
But now, fast forward, and you've got new options in the form of these low profile reels that have a lot of that same gearing capability and power.
Yeah.
It's funny. Another expert YouTube comment the other day on some of my swimbait breakdowns, and I'm talking about the specs on a Daiwa Lexa 300 HD, how it's got 25 pounds of drag. And this guy chimes in like, oh, 25 pounds of drag. Like, dude, you need that for largemouth fishing? And I was like, do you fish for trophy bass? Crickets. Yeah, and people don't understand that you really need the best tools in hand when you're trying to hopefully target the biggest fish of your life.
Yeah.
You get one shot at that, people. Literally. It only happens once.
Yeah, you don't want to mess it up by picking the wrong
I'm
reel.
still waiting for my moment. Like, it's going to happen, but I want to be prepared. So I've been fishing a Daiwa Lexa 300 HD, and now that new Daiwa Tatula 300 has been phenomenal. But there's so many good options now.
Yeah.
I would look for something with at least 15 to 20 plus pounds of drag.
Pounds of drag, yeah.
Because you need to be able to lock it down.
Right.
Like, that's important.
Yeah.
No matter what brand or what model.
Right.
You can't sacrifice good gear, and I've seen a lot of people that want to jump into this and scrimp. Right? And they're like, oh, there's an $80 version that will hold enough line. Like, dude, like, you're going back 20 years in technology. Don't do this to yourself.
Right.
Do not do this to yourself. Sell some of your other gear. Sell some baits you don't use. Do whatever it takes to put yourself in a position to win.
Yeah.
Is my point.
Yeah.
But gear ratios are important. I typically like a slower gear ratio because it forces me to slow down. And really, when I'm in a trophy hunting mindset, I'm not running and gunning.
Right.
I'm
slow meaning 5 point something to something.
Yeah, it's actually hard to find reels that slow anymore. But like a 6 to 1,
6 to 1,
a 7 to 1 is manageable and kind of nice for all around. Because there are times when, like I'm actually looking for that mid-sized fish, whether it's a tournament context or I want someone to catch a bass on a swim bait or a big bait. Like, okay, we can probably up his chances of just catching one by fishing a little faster, covering more water, looking for an active fish, looking for a dumb fish.
Yeah.
And a 7 to 1 helps. 8 to 1, I think it's too fast.
Right.
Yeah. Even 7 to 1, I feel like people get trapped into fishing their baits too fast.
Yeah.
Those big ones really are suckers for a slower retrieve with bursts of speed.
Right. Slower, more methodical.
Right.
With little interruptions of speed.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, burning a bait back all the time. You'll catch like some fun 5 to 7 pounders doing that.
Right.
But that big one ain't gonna chase that thing.
Right. Want to switch to line now.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is a big one. This
Huge.
is a big one for me.
Still evolving for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard you talk about mono.
Mono. Yeah. And I've saw anglers almost in fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs.
Talking about this. I'm serious. And you've got pretty much in my mind, you've got mono guys and you've got fluoro guys. And
in the swimbait world or just in general?
In the swimbait world, in general, but more so in the swimbait world. And I've seen guys at Fisticuffs talking about this. Is there a right answer to mono or fluoro?
I think so.
Go
But
ahead.
it goes back to understanding the qualities and properties of that line and how it behaves and how it affects your presentation.
Yeah.
I've been doing this long enough to where mono was the only option.
Right.
25-pound Maxim Ultra Green was my deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then fluoro came along, and it was kind of different. I didn't really understand it at first. Made my bait sink out faster.
Yeah. Dense. It's dense, right?
Dense,
It's heavy.
right.
It sinks. Yeah.
So it became an advantage when I actually wanted to get like a mid-column bait, like a glide bait, to suck down another 5-10 feet on the course of a long cast. So if I needed to get that bait from 8 to 10 feet where it naturally wanted to swim on mono, I can switch to fluoro and get it down 12, 15 feet,
right?
Even 20 feet if I'm more patient with my retrieve. And dude, I learned like those fish don't care what that thing's tied to when they want to go.
Yeah.
Like I've caught them on 40-pound. Like legit bass fishing with 40-pound mono and fluorocarbon. And I figured out that when I wanted to keep a lure up high for my presentation, whether it was over submerged grass or over wood or up on a dock, because those fish are sucked up underneath a dock.
Yeah.
The mono allowed me to keep that bait up.
Helped you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the fluoro would help me when I needed baits to go down.
Right.
And the abrasion resistance of fluoro also benefited me when I'm bottom bouncing a ton.
Yeah.
Especially in rocky situations.
Yeah.
Muscle situations. And I never really felt comfortable fishing braid with a big bait unless it floated, because I just had that backlash, that braid backlash happen too much. Zing pow.
Right.
That's a lot of momentum, a lot of weight, a lot of just zing powing, and you know that would leave a bad taste in my mouth. But I've continued to evolve, and now I've actually worked braid back into my fishing, and it's through my multi-species stuff that I've been doing, fishing muskies, fishing Murray cod in Australia, fishing barramundi, fishing the European pike, and it's heavily dominated with braid to whatever leader.
Braid to
Fluoro,
leader.
wire,
Yeah.
titanium, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually getting real world experience in fishing cultures where it's more normal than I was comfortable with, and really built a lot of confidence in certain situations with that braid. And one of the adjustments I had to make was just simply stepping up my braid size. Going from what I thought heavy 65-pound braid, like, oh, you can't break 65-pound braid. Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But if you make that small jump to 80 and now even 100-pound braid, the number of cast-offs doesn't even happen.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, there was my biggest hang-up.
Right.
I'm not losing my favorite baits anymore.
Yeah.
And understanding that because it's almost like a neutrally like dense line. Like, it doesn't really make my bait float. It doesn't draw it down. It excelled for shallower applications, especially in and around cover.
Right.
And grass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not so much rock.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times rock's jaggedy or it's got muscles and stuff on it. The braid just doesn't work well in that scenario. But like shallow grass.
Yeah.
Man, I was all about it the last couple seasons.
Yeah. So, but for guys watching right now, there isn't a right answer, right?
There isn't.
Mono is a tool when you want to keep it high.
Yeah.
Fluoro is a tool when you want to get it low.
Yeah.
And then braid's thrown in there when you're talking about cover, heavy cover.
Especially around grass.
Right.
And we all know the benefit of braid around grass.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all on how you decide to formulate this puzzle. And that's the beauty of it. Like, no one's really right.
Yeah.
I'm just making decisions based off of my experiences and trying to better them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. Brian Carpenter, what do you got?
I lost the guy's name, but he's on Bore. He's on YouTube and he wants to burn Shepherd Lake. Says he heard you caught an 8-pounder out of there in North Jersey.
I have not caught an 8-pounder in Jersey, so.
All right, cool.
Not
'Cause
yet.
It's not easy to do. I've caught
No.
one in my life, and it was a very long time ago.
I know that's a big deal. It's a big fish.
Yeah, don't just come rolling in here fat and cocky on your 2 legs catching 8-pounders.
What are you doing next week, Mike?
Let's go. Let's go to Shepherd's.
Is it get warm up here finally?
I don't think so, but
Not for a while.
in like May.
California kid was not comfortable.
Dude, how
today.
cold was that?
Bro,
Dude,
I was
today
freezing.
Was cold. Today was cold. You know me. I want to fish all the time. It's hard to get me off the water.
He warned me about that last night.
Yeah,
Dude, at 3 o'clock, I was toast.
Yeah,
I was cold.
Yeah, well,
No sunshine today.
No sunshine today. No thermal
Yeah.
heating.
Ain't no sunshine.
Man, so many good nuggets for you guys watching right now. Talking big baits with Oliver. Rizz, I know we're probably backed up. Let's do a little catch up with our questions come through.
Yeah, real interesting question from Mike O. He wants to know how often are you changing your hooks on these big baits?
Oh, Mike O. Mike
hooks.
Owens. Good job.
Anytime I feel it's compromised in any way.
Yep.
And how do you tell that? Like,
if the
what
point's
what
bent, if it's tweaked, dude, hooks are cheap. Not worth it. Put a new hook on it.
Right.
Keep spares.
Yeah.
Do you have a hook style that you choose? Are you I saw 4 points?
Yeah, quads are
trebles. What do you use?
Quads are big. I saw Carl and Brandon talking about quads being big.
The three of us have had lots of conversations about that hook,
Yeah.
and I've had a lot of successes. And I don't know where I stand still yet at this point, but it depends on the bait style. Depends what I'm looking to achieve with how that bait fishes. Like I said, it's as simple as swapping out a hook can completely change how I present that eye slide.
Right.
I take that stock hook off, put a ST36, which is like a 1X, round bend treble, and now it floats.
Wow.
So hooks, and everybody's got their own jam when it comes to hooks, right? For me, I want to hook them and I want to keep them hooked.
Yep.
So I choose styles that I feel facilitate that.
Yeah.
And with the big bait, with trebles, and if you look at those rigs, right, look at that musky rig, right?
Yeah, what the hell, dude?
So here's
unreal.
Here's a valuable lesson in not following the herd. Because when I jumped into the musky game a couple years ago, and everybody fishes these crazy 6/0, 7/0, 3X, 4X, 6X hooks, and man, I was missing bites. I was losing fish. And I'm like, yeah, what the hell? This hook is huge. It's like a grappling hook. And then I actually came across a musky angler at the Lake of the Woods Lodge one time, and he actually is a lure maker, and he was rigging his baits with a hook that I've caught thousands of swimbait fish on. And that was an Owner ST36 1X hook. And I'm like, dude, you fish this hook for muskies? He's all, dude, this is the best hook. I'm like, how many of you straightened out? 0. I'm like, come on. And from that moment on, I was like, dude, I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I even try something I've had so much success on just because it's a different fish? Dude, I have been wrecking some nice skis with that same hook.
Yeah.
Because the penetration is there. It's a thinner diameter hook. It's a needle point.
Yeah.
It doesn't tear big holes in their mouth like a cutting point does. And man, it holds. If you get enough penetration on a thinner diameter hook all the way to the bend of the hook, you're good.
Yep.
What happens is if you're hitting them in a hard spot in their mouth or jaw or somewhere where it's actually catching the tip and not penetrating to that bend, that's how you're opening things up.
Right. Yeah, once you get it locked down, you're good.
Yeah, if you can get penetration with that thinner hook to where it needs to go, dude, they're done.
I like this style of hook a lot. I like it.
Yeah, I've had incredible success with it. Literally thousands of swimbait fish.
And that's
What is that? Is that a spinner with a skirt and a swim bait on the back?
Yeah, look at that thing.
It is the culmination of lots of crazy thoughts and ideas and experiments, and resulted in so far a 53 and a 50-inch muskie, which in that world is pretty good.
I like it.
That's pretty awesome. Hey, Mike, we've got some lists.
Yeah.
JK has a list.
Let's hit it.
And I have a tackle warehouse best-selling glide bait list.
Oh, let's hear it.
You want to? We'll jump into the Tackle Warehouse list.
I want to. Yeah, I want to hear.
Shout
that
out
one.
to Tackle Warehouse a moment, Corey. Thank you, man. And
shout out to Corey.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Oliver. What do you now? We couldn't go with the SKU, like the exact size or color. It just the overall best-selling glide bait. Do you have a guess?
So here's something I want to make really important, like clear to the audience. Is like, just because everybody's buying it doesn't mean that's what you should buy.
This is true.
That is true.
Not
just
according
putting that
to
out
YouTube.
there. I don't even know what you're gonna say. I really don't.
Okay. Well, I'll roll up the list. Coming in at a virtual 3-way tie for 5th on the best-selling list are the Bait Sanity Antidote, who's kind of tied with the Hard Twitch and Savage 3D Glide. Those are number 5, virtually tie.
Oliver,
coming in at number 4.
Do you agree?
How can I refute it? That's Tackle Warehouse's list.
I don't know. I'm just trying to stir some shit.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the I'm a Glide Fluke.
Ooh.
Number 3 is the Storm Arashi Glide. This guy right here.
Price point's right on that one. Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Number 2.
Number is this is my favorite name is the G-Rat Sneaky Pete. coming in at number 2, and the number 1 glide bait at Tackle Warehouse.
Say Debs.
Oliver. Cowboy.
Is the S waiver.
Yeah, it's
S waiver.
Come on.
Mass produced.
Good price point.
And a good price point.
Could be a price
Yep.
point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Tackle Warehouse, for providing us with the great deets and JK. Every week you put together some interesting stuff for us. What do you have lined up?
Oh, I've got lists on lists on lists, man. But tonight, I've got a big bait rapid fire for Oliver.
Oh,
let's go.
So I ask a series of questions. This is also my way of getting to ask more than the few that I can sneak in here. But hopefully we'll pull some good stuff out. I've had to cross off already like 4 on this rapid fire because of our awesome subscribers and Mike asking and getting into some of the nuts and bolts. But we're going to go ahead and ask the rest of the list. Oliver, how this is going to work is you can be as short as you want and straight to the point as you want. You can elaborate if you want. You can tell a story if you want. But then when you're done, I'm going to ask the next one right there. So you ready?
Hit me.
All right, man. So we were talking about glide baits and you are already talking about trebles versus quattros. So I'm not going to go there, but single split rings or double split rings or something else.
Ooh, good one.
Swiveling hook hangers if possible. If not, double.
Okay, so you're swiveling hook hangers built into the bait.
Correct.
Number 1 choice.
Wow.
Peter,
yeah.
How'd you get that?
All right. So a lot of glide baits will come with a silver hook like this Depths or black hook. Does color of your treble, do you have a preference?
Here's a funny story.
Tell it.
I was fishing that Depths 250 when we had to order him from Japan, thanks to my boy Rafael Rossi. Shout out to him for showing me that bait and catching like a 9.5 in front of me. And I was like, oh, okay, for 9.5, I'll eat it. A 10 will probably eat it. And this is new to me at the time. And it was odd because it came from Japan with feathered silver hooks. But I'm like, okay. So I ordered one for myself. And the very first day I used it is when I caught 2 new PBs in a day. First fish was a 12-8. Then I got a 10.5, 11.5, shaking off a bunch of 7s. And as I'm on the phone, because this is actually one of those times where that scenario from Casitas was unfolding. These fish are up. They're literally like tracking the bait.
Unbelievable.
I call Rafael after I'm still doing this. It's like a 45-minute window, and I just caught like a 5-pounder, and I'm like, dude, you won't believe this, man. I've got a 12.8, new PV, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, crap. And from here to that tripod, I could see another double digit, like tracking them. Dude, I got another 10-pounder on it right now. And then as I said that, this big flash comes out from the side in front of that fish. And I'm like, oh, dude, I just caught a 12.8. And I'm like, dude, this thing's bigger. Like, I finally did it. And like a couple of cranks, it's in the net. I'm like, dude, I did it. 13.5. Okay, so I've had.
Oh, my God.
With the phone in my shoulder here. It's on YouTube. And I'm flipping out, and I've had incredible success on this bait that a lot of guys back at home call the chicken foot because it's got those feathered trebles, right? And when Butch and Optimum Baits brought that bait to the States in mass, they came without those trebles. They came with bare treble hooks. And everybody rushed to take their feathered treble hooks off of their Japanese versions. I'm sitting there like, yo, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Monkey see monkey do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Dude, that secondary action of those feathers. Hey,
Oh my God.
have a mind of your own, my friends.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
I still see that on a lot of the Japanese swim baits. Like I get Lure magazine and I get Basser.
Yeah.
I can't read a single thing,
Yeah.
but I love looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
I still see that as a big trend. I still see a lot of Japanese anglers using feathers.
Yeah, man.
And not always on the tail. I see them on the belly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of experiments, and I've caught a lot of fish on feathered hooks, non-feathered hooks, black nickel hooks, bronze hooks, silver, chrome, whatever you want to call those hooks. I've had a lot of success on all that stuff. So I don't know if hook color matters most of the time, but I will share another story where I was filming underwater, dragging two 13-inch Matt Lure's dead twitch trout swim baits, soft baits that floated, and I actually captured this double-digit fish come up to the first bait, and I did an experiment. The first bait had two black nickel hooks free hanging, and then the other one had two treble hooks painted white pinned into the belly. Because, I've gone down these rabbit holes that we all go through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I watched this fish swim straight up to this freaking dead twitch with the hooks hanging, go, swim 2 feet over, crunch. The identical bait.
The identical bait with the painted hooks.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
did. But here's the thing. Did not hook that bastard.
Wow.
So what good is that?
Right.
It's like one of those scenarios like, do I put myself in a situation to get the bite but probably not hook it? I'd almost rather not hook it.
Right. Huh. That's interesting.
It's still an ongoing experiment.
Yeah.
Well, I love that.
Make all these tough choices when you're getting so few bites. Gosh,
That's it. It's
torturous.
tough.
Yeah. JK, back to you, buddy.
Thank you. I've had my own depths encounters, but no hookups out in Clear Lake, and that feather treble makes me just like wonder. Anyway, so moving on. Here's a yes or no question that can be accompanied by an explanation. Think back to the biggest bass that you at least think that you've had hooked. Did you catch that?
Yeah. That 17 was by far the biggest one I've hooked. And I
Sweet.
landed. I've had encounters with fish in that same class, give or take 2 pounds either way. I mean, when they're that big, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I did have one that was smaller, that was bigger than that 13.5 clearly. And it's funny, people make this observation where it's like, oh, you got the eyeball scale. Well, I kind of got experience on my side. I've seen these fish in the water. I've seen
We talk
these
about
fish.
the people on YouTube again?
No, just people, like
just saying.
anglers in general.
Just saying.
Right?
Give them my number.
Yeah, for sure. Skeptical anglers.
Second Woods.
Send them idiots my way.
I know.
Second Woods.
I've had the fortune of handling a lot of these fish, weighing them and seeing them from the same perspective, from the same distance, and the same level in the column. Like, I've got pretty good at judging the size of fish, within a half pound especially.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
20-something years of tournament angling. Why has he not gotten good at that?
I suck at it. Hey, man.
Why is he at
honestly,
2 pounds every
I
one?
had 2 pounds of everything.
Dude, honestly, it's easier to guess the bigger ones because those smaller ones are just they're this way and that way, and they're eating different things. Those hard ones are hard to guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
They really are. Like sub 6 pounds.
I've caught very few fish over 10 pounds. I've got probably 4. So
How many have you called?
how many have I called? Called?
Yeah, it's a 10-pounder.
It's a 10
Oh,
pounder.
a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Dude,
I've caught a lot of 10s that were 8s.
An 8-pound fish is a giant bass.
Giant.
Damn
yeah.
right.
And it's not
What did
that.
you call that
It's
14,
typically
Mike?
What's that?
What did you call that 14? What did you think you had when you caught a 14 pound?
You know, it's funny. That one I knew it was a giant, but I was in practice mode, and I literally thought I broke him off. He got me stuck in a tree, and it's spinning rod.
Oh, my God.
10 pounds of fluorocarbon. I'm in practice. I'm sight fishing, and I'm just bombing it out the other side of the boat. So after he got me hung up in that tree, I just went over to it to break it off. And when I pulled up, I'm reeling it. I'm like, what the heck? And I looked down. That water was so clear at Amistad that year.
Oh my goodness!
I could see it with a branch across his mouth, so he stopped fighting. You know, and I just pulled him up to the top. But I didn't call that one anything.
Big.
That was a big one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Jeez.
sick.
14.
But yeah, I lost one about that 14, 15-pound class on Casitas.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to go down that dark rabbit hole of misery. But I actually hooked that fish twice on the same cast and lost her twice.
Oh, my God.
On a low-profile swim bait reel that didn't give me enough power to get her moving either time.
Right.
She was so fired up after she shook my bait the first time. She came up and smoked it again.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And I honestly, that was like
She was in heat.
Dude, she was fired up.
Heavy heat.
10:45 in the morning, dead calm, bright blue bird sky.
On a Huddy?
No, on it was actually a 316 Armageddon at the time. Yeah, and it was in the back of the secondary point on Chismahu as you come into that big cove. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment. Like, it was crazy. And actually, that was towards the tail end of that 6-7 year run, and that was my shot that I was working so hard and obsessively over.
Yeah.
That I burnt out. I literally stepped away from bass fishing for 2 years.
Oh, my God. Because of that one fish.
I said, screw this, I'm done.
Hell yeah.
But guess what?
I
Your
can
boy
relate.
came back
I can
in
relate.
2012.
Dude, that's awesome.
I like us. Hey, man, let's save us for Friday
Yeah,
night.
will you talk about that again on live on Friday?
Absolutely.
I want to talk about
we
that.
can
again.
go deep into that.
Yeah, let's go.
into
That was a
on
hell of
Live
a day,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, we'll drink more and go deeper.
Well,
Yeah.
well, back to the nuts and bolts then. Next one, Oliver. The best big bait technique or your favorite for sight fishing spawning bass.
Yeah, man, that's such a weird dynamic, especially where I'm from.
Okay.
I've always just kind of like averted it. Like, I just don't want to do it.
Guys love it. Guys hate it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's very polarizing as
Yeah.
a subject. And here's the thing, right? Like, I've done it, and dude, it's not easy all the time.
Yeah.
There are times when like catching them in that manner is very, very difficult. But there's also times where it seems easier. So I don't know if I hold that same catch in the same regard and esteem as a blind cast fish.
All right. I'd agree with that.
Right? That fish is potentially biting my artificial lure out of overpowering instinct to protect this area.
Right. Yeah.
Would it have eaten a hot dog? Maybe,
Right.
if you presented it right.
Pizza? Bri? The carpenter?
Pizza.
So
I'll show you a video after. This.
okay.
The lake we're fishing Friday.
Nice.
Pizza.
Pizza fish, huh?
You're gonna pizza quarry.
Got it. So my experience in that regard is pretty limited, but I've done really well on like a soft bait.
Yeah, have you thrown the big tubes? There's a guy on on YouTube talking
Dude.
about Ish's monster donger tube.
Dude, the big tube was a thing on the West Coast. The big Gidsit, you know, like back then it was only like 6-inch tube, but
Yeah.
it seemed giant to even us.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally a thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good options to throw at those bedfish to get them to trigger. Honestly, a lot of times I just used them to piss those things off and throw something else I had a high hookup and landing percentage on.
Sweet. All right, biggest smallmouth caught on a big bait.
Lots of high fives.
Okay.
I learned that.
That's a big one, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Big brown one.
Yeah, that is. But I learned through trial and error and a lot of failure that in certain bodies of water where I know I have a chance at a 6+ pound smallmouth, that if I can get it to eat a traditional bait that it can get the hook in its mouth versus anywhere out here, my odds of landing that thing go way up.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I've caught them on the big bait, and we've had them swallow a Defiant 210, an 8-inch mag jab. My girlfriend actually caught like a 5.5 on that white Defiant 210, that same bait.
Wow.
I mean, it smoked it. Had no problem eating it. But it was one of those occasions where it got the bait.
Right.
They just tend not to get the bait as effectively as a largemouth.
Right. Yeah. Smaller mouth. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we got a lot of baits that we're throwing that cost a lot of money. This is an expensive hobby, more expensive hobby than any other lure category. So what knot do you tie?
Ooh.
What are you trusting that you're tying on these big baits?
Great question. It's the same knot I tie on my finesse drop shot rigs.
Balloon.
Like everything up the line. Double overhand knot. No, I'm just kidding. It's a
double granny.
It's a double granny knot. Make sure you don't lubricate it. Just yank on it.
If you can't tie a knot, tie a lot.
Heat help. Lots of heat. It's a well lubricated trilene knot.
Trilene knot.
And make sure it seats correctly.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a good knot. It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic knot, man.
I've bounced double digits with it.
Yep. I think the only knot prettier than that is Pete's knot.
Oh.
That's a pretty knot.
Not no more.
Just a few more. Big jerk baits and big topwaters. We haven't really touched on either of them tonight. Do you throw big topwaters, big jerk baits?
Plunker.
Yeah, I mean, what do you consider big? I've thrown a stick bait called Megatron.
Megatron.
That was 15 inches.
It's a great name.
That's a great name, Dan.
Google it, Bri.
Yeah, man.
Find that one.
It was actually a 2x4.
Megatron.
It was a handmade garage bait, big walking stick. It was literally 15 inches long. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Catching anything on top is definitely my jam. But I also learned that my odds of catching a double-digit largemouth on top are pretty low. So I don't use it when I'm trying to catch a really big fish.
Wow. So you never got into like those big weight baits or anything?
Oh, yeah, I did all that.
Double digits on it?
Well, that failure point was a big wake bait. That story about that 14, 15-pound class fish, that was a big wake bait.
Was it really?
Yep.
What was the bait?
10.5, 10 1/3 inch long Armageddon. It was a $250 bait. At the time, people were like, you're spending how much on this bait?
Yep.
Dude, you guys should have seen some of the bites I was getting on that thing.
Really?
My goodness. I mean, some of my boys that came up with me in the game, like, they got to see it firsthand. Like, dude, they would. But the problem was I missed so many of those fish.
Right.
And I lost.
They're not biting it anymore.
Well, the dynamics on those fisheries that I was having that experience and success on, they just changed.
Right.
Yeah.
They just changed.
Yeah.
Not to say it wouldn't work, but not in the frequency that I was getting engagements from.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last one I got for you, Oliver. I can see it there. You've got all these tackle boxes, and talk to us about your tackle storage for your giant baits, your big hard baits, soft baits, all of that stuff. Can you give us any tips? Give the guys any tips on that?
Yeah. As you can see, it's kind of just all over the place. Like literally, those musky baits, like they can only fit in this giant freaking box because it doesn't really work for anything else. And you saw me struggling to pull one out. And that's just what it is, man. That's just what it is. And then I got these baits in this wrap because they just work well here in this scenario. But a lot of times I just got them in these like deep, 3,700 size hard boxes.
The deeper ones, yeah.
And those do a good job at keeping them somewhat untangled and organized. But the biggest thing with soft baits especially, and that's why this kind of makes me cringe, is that if possible, leave your soft baits in their original packaging, whether that's clam packaging or whether that's like a foam packaging, because the soft baits are susceptible to warp and take on memory.
Yeah, you get a bend in the
However
tail.
you store them is probably however it's going to sit when you actually finally take it out and go to cast. And oh, man, my bait's a piece of crap. Well, you kind of let it, get to that point.
Yeah.
So store them, even like down to the dark sleeper. I used to take them all out of my package. Like, oh, man, I got a sick dark sleeper box. Look at them all. Like, and then some of them will warp just from being in the boat in the heat. And it's like, oh, dude, that tail's busted. Now, you saw today when I was reaching in and picking a new one out.
Yeah.
I left them in the clam packaging in here.
Yeah.
So I even do that with the big baits now.
Right.
And it just makes
Keeps
my
them
life,
protected, so they won't get bent. I like that.
Dark sleeper.
Dark sleeper. All over little Darby.
Mike.
Awesome.
You look like the dark sleeper right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've had a long day, man.
We did have a long day.
I know.
I think the cold zonked me today.
Oh, dude,
that's what it was.
We didn't have breakfast. We didn't have lunch.
No breakfast.
That's what happens when you hang with this guy.
I didn't get no bites.
Bro, you got to
like,
bait. You got to bait your own hook. He can live on anger and emotion and just survive on it.
Just spite.
I feed off of anger.
Of a spite.
Spite and anger controls my life. I don't need no food.
It's like food for him.
I don't need water. I don't need food. I just need spite and anger.
It's true.
It's so true.
It's so true, man.
Oh, I love it. It's so good though.
Those are great motivators for me. So
great.
Yeah,
motivators.
but by the end of the week, you'll be hurting, dude. you won't survive, man. Family, tomorrow morning when we roll out, we'll get breakfast.
Brian and Carpenter, listen to me. We came back and got cheesesteaks for crying out loud.
We did though.
I redeemed
Okay,
myself.
but yes, you 1 meal per datum.
Yeah, 1 meal per day.
No,
Yeah,
that's not how most people work. That's how you work.
What are you talking about?
No, you 1 meal per datum.
No, look at Oliver. He's fit. He don't need no 10 meals a
It
day.
don't matter, dude. He's got to eat.
Nah.
Poor Clint's over there dying.
Nah, Clint's fit too.
I got you. Tomorrow morning we get breakfast.
McDonald's
My
at
man.
the beginning of the week.
Oh, we got to get some good South Jersey breakfast though. Like,
Yeah, how about Elmer Diner, dude? Oh,
yeah, I
is
mean,
is it open?
Well, they do takeout.
Oh, okay.
Or the Anderson's got that great breakfast sandwich here too. They do a pork roll. They do
Is that what right here? Is it?
Yeah, the one right across from Centerton.
Oh, yeah.
They open at 6 a.m.
Oh, let's do that.
Yeah, Anderson's got a good
pork roll, egg,
breakfast.
and cheese.
Yeah.
Is it right?
That's good.
Is it?
Oh yeah. It's
Kaiser roll?
round Kaiser roll.
You guys ain't had pork roll.
No, I haven't. I gotta
about to.
say right now that one of my favorite experiences as I travel the country, now the world, is indulging in local cuisine. Local food culture is everything.
Filet, cheesesteaks.
Dude, we got good food up here.
Do
man.
it, man. No, for sure.
I know Callie does.
Honestly, I'm
Callie
bummed I
don't
can't
play.
go into the city.
Yeah.
It's like, man, some of the
Yeah.
best food experiences of my life were there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we could.
It's good stuff. I just want to say I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. I know we're not ending it right now, but I
You might
say it's been a great show. I hope you've learned a lot. It's unbelievable. Learning so much about big baits, and you know what I like? Dude, we hit a lot of different facets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different style baits, actions, when to throw them, when not to throw them, hooks. We covered a big gamut today.
Yeah,
and we haven't even scratched the surface because
No,
there's
we
a
haven't.
lot. You know, it's hard to do it in a 2-hour show. It's unbelievable. But Rizzo, we got any? Let's take a couple last big questions coming in, and then let's do.
I got a guy sitting on Zoom for an hour and a half now.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do him too.
Go ahead, Rich.
Riz, what do you got?
Okay, so this question is actually going to be the winner of our second Gills gift card. And this question is from Slater, and he wants to know, Oliver, Oliver, is there a specific depth that you target when you're looking for these big fish on big baits?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it's typically pretty shallow. I don't like fishing deeper than 15, 20 max, and that goes across the country, really.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't like catching big fish out of that deeper water. It's tough on them.
It's real tough on them.
And it's tough on me, waiting for my bait to sink a lot of times.
Right. Oh, my God, yeah.
I just feel like those fish in that little shallower zone tend to be more active in a non-neutral mood more than those deeper fish are.
Right.
We've all seen those big boomerangs and stuff.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like,
Brian the Carpenter.
And yeah, I've just had much more success fooling those fish in that zone.
Right.
Like that 8 to 12 foot zone is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that zone.
But and here's what you gotta look for though. You gotta have access to deep water, and that's relative.
Right.
That's
Yep.
relative to your body of water. And in some places that's 5 feet. That's 8 feet.
Yep.
Other places that's 30, 40.
Yep. This is true. Rich, what else you got, homie?
Dustin wants to know, Ollie, what is your go-to swim bait if you find yourself in ultra clear water?
Oh, it's a soft bait, and it's probably something realistic that sits perfectly upright on the bottom like that Defiant. That I can literally just cast out and fish like Vegas.
Dead stick.
Literally just let it sit there.
Dead stick.
I mean, there's YouTube videos of me doing that. Literally, I make a cast with that 247, big long fingering point, similar setup to where I got that big 17, right? Just a big main lake point. It's a point I know big fish use. Long bomb cast, sinks out, hits the bottom. My graphs at the time were doing something funny, like my settings got changed. So I'm literally just on my knees, like pushing buttons for like 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of fixed it. And I stood up and I did what you were doing today. It's like, that feels kind of weird. Crack. And, 9.5 or something.
Jeez.
Never move the bait.
Whoa. Crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's how Pete fishes a Senko, by the way.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can
All
do it with
the
the big
time.
bait.
Yep.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's called the Pete.
Called
Hey,
the
so we
Pete.
got a viewer on Zoom. I see Sean Forrest has joined us this evening.
Sean!
What up?
How you doing?
What's going on?
How you doing
What is
tonight?
going on?
Talking
Man, you
big
guys got a
baits,
full
huh?
house. I know you guys got a full house in there, man. What's up with that? Hey, so I got a question for Oliver. Okay, so I was watching a couple months back. You did a video in Texas at a reservoir, and you were using. I think it might have been a video that they were doing for Mega Bass. You used the 6-inch. The 8-inch, and I think you used the 10-inch. What's the word? Yeah. Mag draft. Yeah, mag draft. Sorry, because it's all new to me, man.
All good,
So,
man. Welcome.
Yeah. So, my question is, you talked about the rod and you talked about the line, but the reel. All right. I didn't see too much of the setup that you were using. I know it was an open-handed, conventional round reel, but I didn't know what it was. It looked like maybe a Shimano 400 Series B.
It was probably a Conquest 400.
Conquest 400?
Yeah, especially that period of time.
Okay, so is that normal for larger baits like that, big baits, or is that something that you just were trying to test out?
Oh, no, that's the culmination of all my field experiences with lesser reels.
Gotcha.
It goes back to some of those horror stories. Like that reel had the power. And now there's other reels that have that similar power.
Yeah, you said you want at least 15 pounds
Minimum.
or greater.
Yeah, because, dude, 15 pounds is not that much drag.
Right.
Especially in that moment where you need it. It's literally a split moment.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get that hook to penetrate on a soft bait.
Yeah.
It's not,
What was the gear ratio on that?
Those were like 5-to-1, 5-8-to-1, 6-2-to-1.
Lower,
slower.
More slow retrieve, more finesse. Let the bait do. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, man. I'm not covering a ton of water. I've got areas I'm targeting where I feel a big one would use or live in, and I'm gonna give myself an opportunity to hopefully fool what I hope is the biggest fish in that lake. And I know it's not gonna come fishing fast.
Sweet. I got one more question, and it's for JK. JK, hey man, what's up, bro?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Listen, doing good. Co-angling. All right. I know we're not on that subject, but I got to ask this question. Have you ever got frustrated with the boater, the angler that's at the front of the boat? Like you want to go someplace, you know that there's bait fish over there. You're seeing, all kinds of birds hitting and stuff like that, and they don't see it. And have you ever got frustrated? Not during a tournament, it doesn't have to be during a tournament. It could be during practice time, whatever it is. But you know, it was one of those questions that I didn't get a chance to ask you a couple weeks ago when we were talking about co-angling.
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I have before. It was early on, and just one little mental jog that I do, because I will feel feelings of frustration all the time, because as a co-angler, it's common to go 4 or 5 hours without an opportunity to get a strike, and things aren't working or whatever. But I would just say, the moment you have that feeling come in or thought come into your mind, that's the moment that you remind yourself that everybody else in your competition is going to have that at some point today. And the only way to finish, you know, up in the standings is going to be to get yourself back into that more positive space of, what's my next cast doing? What's my next opportunity going to be? Because right now it's not going to be over across the cove or over around the creek where there's bait fish and all that stuff. So that's all I'd say. I always take it back to the mental game, but that's really the biggest part of it, if you're going to see your way through. And if you can conquer that, you'll start to have those positive successes.
So, I mean, is there a point that you maybe, like, you know, draw up a conversation with the boater and say, hey, you know, have you looked over there? I mean, there's birds diving, there's bait fish. No?
Oh, that doesn't ever really go well. I couldn't imagine that going well. You know, gotcha. If he
even doing practice
asks me,
okay,
I will share my opinion as long as it's clear that he wants to know from me. But I will not volunteer anything. I just don't see how that. He's paid more to be in there. A lot of times he's always fishing for a larger purse.
Yeah.
Unless you were fishing a Toyota series last year where, you know, all the numbers got screwed up. But
shots fired.
To JK's credit, many times has been asked and has taken the boat and put the boat on fish when the boater has been struggling. So
hostile takeover. I've been known.
That's cool.
I like to chime in on this because I spent most of my life as a co-angler.
Yes.
And the guy.
That's my other question. Have you ever done it? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I grew up poor. Like, I didn't just jump into a freaking brand new boat and have all this crap, man. Like, I literally came up from the very beginning, literally with a stick. If you guys aren't familiar with my story, and I spent most of my tournament fishing years, especially in the back of the boat.
That's dope, dude.
And that's tough, man, because like, it never can go well, really, because that guy has pretty much put himself in a position where he's in the front. So lesson learned for me as a young, very hungry angler is I just realized I needed to put myself in a position to where I'm in the front.
you know what?
Like, bottom line.
Yeah, it just wasn't for you.
Nah, not for me. Not my personality. And if you find yourself in that situation repeatedly, you're probably in a very similar space.
Yeah. That's inspiring though, man. So you grew up, you started in California, and now here you are in New Jersey in January.
Wild. Eating cheesesteaks. It all comes with the crew.
Yo, you want a good cheesesteak, you need to go to Roman Pantry.
Where?
Roman Pantry, right there in Pennsgrove.
Oh, okay.
Right on Harding Highway,
Oh,
right
we
there.
might be close to that.
You are.
That might be.
I know exactly.
How come you guys don't call them Jersey cheesesteaks? Because we're on this side of the river.
Oh, man.
They got it. We got to give it to them.
Yeah.
Hey, let me hit this here trivia question. This is from the mind of Ken Duke.
This here trivia question.
This here trivia question from the mind of Ken Duke. What's it for, Rich?
Is this for us or is this for the subscribers?
This is for the people.
This is for the people. All right. Well, this question, somebody's going to win a TH Marine mini Hydra Wave with this.
Yep.
So get ready. Pay attention.
$100,000. One of the early popular big swim baits in the West in the late 80s and early 90s was the AC plug. Later, it was produced by Arbogast. What does AC stand for?
Alan Cole.
You want him Hydra Wave.
Hey!
Wait, who got that?
right, let's try a second one.
Oliver won.
Oliver, you can't answer this one. Dang it. Or anyone else.
Put it on the kayak. I have a hydro wave on my kayak. I
need one.
I engineered
Who
one.
is Oliver Cole?
So I could drop it.
Oliver Cole.
Arm.
It was Alan Cole, and Oliver spoiled it.
Okay.
You were excited. That
All
was awesome.
the answers on the message board are Alan Cole now.
Yeah.
No, we're not playing like that.
We're not playing like
No,
that.
we're gonna have a new one. Brian
shut
Carter,
up
give
now.
us a new one.
What was the first swim bait?
Yes, this is a good one.
The first swim bait,
I
and
like
it was
this question.
patented in
Nobody's gonna get this though.
1911.
Oh, so they'll get it.
Well, you know, I gotta give something. Mike's exhausted. We gotta get out of here at some point.
This is a hard one.
Yeah. I got a couple guesses.
You know who's gonna get this one? Bernie Schultz.
Yeah.
Brian, I need the answer.
Oh, that's a good point, Rich. Shoot.
Give me a text.
This COVID social distancing stuff sucks, dude. Tired of it.
COVID. What's COVID?
I hear that.
All right, nobody listen as I whisper this to Rich.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of the baits that we started out, that the original baits were all kind of swim bait oriented kind of stuff, you know? Throw it out, reel it in.
We have a winner.
Even
got a
the
winner. Go
worms
ahead,
were.
Rich.
What do we got?
Wow. Sorry to cut you off, Pete, but that came in really, really quick. The winner, again, is Mr. Slater with the answer of the KK animated minnow. The
Whoa.
KK animated minnow. Wow.
Wow. I see that answer 3 times on there too. So 3 guys.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, Slater came in first, so he came in first for what I can see anyway. So
I will
he's the
recount the votes.
I was going to guess the sassy shad or the grub.
Grub.
Grub. Mike?
You know?
What happened to the
They're
grub?
kind of swim baits. The sassy shad certainly was.
He's the loudest chewer in the planet, dude.
I
I can still hear it even with your microphone up there.
This guy ain't loud.
Oh my god, I can hear it. That's way up there. Maybe it's just in my head, dude, but it's freaking me out right now.
It's all right. I'm still getting comments for the pizza I ate on that one show.
Man, I think that's about a wrap. Rich, you got any last questions?
all we got left is the
like and share.
All right,
The
so
Facebook like and
Rich,
share.
while you dial that up, we're going to
I
be
got-
back Friday night, right back here in the studio with Oliver and Mike and the Ike Live crew.
Come
And-
kick it.
And we're going to get into some of the stuff that we didn't want to touch on tonight, like Oliver's 2020 plans and where he's fishing and
Going back to the future.
oh yeah, what tournaments and tournament trails and aspirations and goals he may have for the future. It's pretty wild, dude. It's pretty wild. Nice.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
You bet.
You bet.
Thank you, buddy. Great questions.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Oh yeah. Did we give Sean anything? Sean, you got a $25 TH.
I don't need nothing. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll take you guys to Naughty Goose and I'll get you some drinks. How about that?
you already did that once, Sean.
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. It's my treat.
Send me your subscriber number over on the message board, and we'll get some stuff headed out your way.
All right, man. That sounds good.
Thanks, Sean.
Talk to y'all later.
Later, Sean.
Thank you, sir.
I like the Naughty Goose idea.
Yeah, after one of the tournaments, he showed up there and he probably dropped $100 buying. What were they? What were they, Rich?
Orange Crushes.
Orange Crushes.
Oh, that was actually like the
We needed it that day, Brian. We
it
had
was
a
another
love
one.
Oh,
that day.
another one.
Yeah, it was pretty much all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What an awesome show. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. You watched the special here on Big Baits. Of course, Oliver Nye hooking us up with supreme knowledge. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. Learned so
Thank
much
you.
tonight. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Yes. Want to also thank our crew via Zoom tonight. The Dean, Pete Gluszek, JK, and, of course, Rizz, a.k.a. Rizzo, a.k.a. Rich, for handling IMs. Also, shout out and thank you to Brian.
Me?
Yes, and also shout out to Clint, sat over here
Yeah.
all night, very patiently.
Darkness.
Yes, Clint, we might have to get you on Ike Live. We might put an earphone on you over here too, and get you on the show.
I want to give a quick shout out that we want to give out to the TH Marine Atlas Awards program. And I want to invite everybody to go over and check that out and get signed up. If you're fishing a tournament trail out there and you use TH products, there's all kinds of bonus money available for you guys. So get over there and get signed up for the Atlas Awards program with TH Marine.
Nice. Good deal. Yeah, we're going to give away one more prize for the night, too. There's a Facebook like and share for some Flambeau, some Rapala, some TH Marine products. And the winner of that is James Hoppy Hopkins. James Hoppy Hopkins from Ozark, Arkansas. Congratulations. You're tonight's Facebook like and share winner.
I like it. And
we'll do that dream package on Friday night.
we'll do it on Friday. On
There you go.
I like that
Some
better.
incentive for you guys to
I like
tune
that
in.
better. Yeah, I want everybody watching tonight and listening to this BU. Tune in on Friday night.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Hey, but by the way, the place I got you guys set up, courtesy of our own Greg DiPalma, for Friday.
GD.
Yeah, he the guy who's got the property on the private place that you're going, big fan, and he wants some dream gear.
Cool. I might know a guy.
Yeah,
All
yeah. He's a big fan.
Any place where bass eat pizza, I think it's going to be good fishing. So. Pretty excited.
Hopefully they're hungry.
We need a place like that
Silver
after
treble
today.
hooks or black nickel?
Pizza colored hooks. What else you got, guys? Anything else? Good show tonight.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on, man. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude.
Thank you, Oliver. Great stuff, man. It was really awesome stuff. Thanks.
I hope you guys don't figure out I made it all up.
Hope everybody enjoyed watching. We'll see you next Tuesday for another BU. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
It's Mike Iaconelli. This is Bass U TV. Here's what's awesome about Bass U TV.
You get the top instructors.
You will learn things at Bass U that you will learn nowhere else.
And we help you build confidence with new techniques.
We take the mystery and the myths out of bass fishing.
Real tools that help you catch more fish consistently.
At Bass U TV, shoes are optional.
And I like turtles.
We teach you to enjoy bass fishing.
And that's why you want to check out Bass U TV.
Join the Bass U family.
Welcome to Bass U TV.